So today's agenda is about talking about what is there before DevOps, right? See, but before using this particular word DevOps, I want you to understand that in any industry that you are getting a job, okay, that means there is some business involved, isn't it? So if there is no business, there is no job. There is no point in giving us a job, right? So there is certain business involved, and there is certain revenue involved, and that is where so to do that particular work, so we are going to have a job. So this is what the market purpose is, right? So, and the market what we are talking about here is SDLC market, so which is nothing but a software development lifecycle market. Okay, so this particular market is about developing the products. If you go to an organization who make the products typically, so those companies actually follow certain lifecycle management or lifecycle methodologies to achieve the development of that particular project or product, by the way. So that is where the SDLC comes into picture. And in this particular area of business I'm talking about, so there are other businesses as well, right? So maybe there are the businesses which is maybe like, so onto the I mean to say, like, on the, so after development is done, by the way, so there are certain roles like, so operations like so typically like technical operations or like business operations. Okay, so maybe a customer care or something like that. So those are also can be those are also can be so some sort of different businesses, by the way. And I'm core and majorly talking about the business area. Or you go to the bank or finance, by the way, so they have their core business, by the way. So the things are a bit different, right? So the core banking business is to sell the banking services to the customers, right? So, and certain people are around there is different. Okay, so everyone might be looking around the IT, but we are particularly talking about the business, especially around the software development. Okay, so where the products are manufactured, in that particular area I'm actually trying to talk about. So because the area we are going to, or the role or the training you're attending or you're trying to attend is relatively related to here, by the way. So that is the understanding. So it's SDLC, software development lifecycle. And in order to achieve, or in order to so make a product, by the way, so we need certain methodologies. SDLC is a very generic term, by the way, but inside this there are certain methodologies, different methodologies which are there in the market from quite some time. Out of them, so there are two major methodologies which were available, is a waterfall model, and there is something called as agile model. Waterfall model is basically going to be like is a legacy, or is going to be like so old ways of doing the work. Like we used to make big products and all. I mean, the waterfall was essentially the good one at those times, by the way. But slowly the market is being changing to in a way that a lot of startups coming into picture. So the big companies so being targeted by small applications, so small things are coming into picture. And the product also, you don't need to really have a very big product to start with. A small product is fine to start the business, and from there we'll be moving on to enhancing the features, by the way. So that is the, so back in days, waterfall model means we think about all the features, we make all the features, and then we'll release the product. But now what we're thinking is, we call it as especially like MVP, a minimal viable product in Agile. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a bare minimum thing what is needed to get into the market. We go onto the market, we grab the customers, and then we'll solve the customers. So that is how the today's market. So whatever the things are, so we have earlier waterfall model, and what is and now we have agile model, and doesn't really matter to us much. So we are going to okay, so go and talk about these particular methodologies and what are there inside that, and narrowing down that particular SDLC, okay, the software development one, to a particular business area. What this particular products, by the way, so there are so many products which are made in the IT industry. I'm typically talking about web-based applications. I'm typically talking about an applications which are web-based applications, and these particular web-based applications are these particular web-based applications can be, so classically solved from the web browser or maybe from a mobile app. Doesn't really matter. Both considered as the same category. So those are web-based applications. That means the app which is being there on the over the cloud, by the way. Okay, the apps over the cloud. That means cloud means simple, like cloud means not Amazon or something like that. Cloud is nothing but over internet, right? So over web, whatever we have is called as a cloud. And these typical web-based applications are getting served over the internet from our web browser or a web browser or a mobile client, mobile application, by the way, doesn't really matter. So wherever it is getting served from. So we are especially talking about the area of this particular one, okay, because this is the bigger business today's world. Now you take any product today, everything is on web. You take a classical operating systems, okay, so maybe now previously, for an example, if I want a Windows operating system, okay, now typically I had to go and buy a laptop and install Windows on top of that. So now today, actually Windows, few months back, they have released something like on cloud. So that means Windows completely, they are going to serve over the cloud itself. You don't need to really buy a license and you don't need to really install on your laptop or somewhere. Maybe, I mean, so end of the day, some client machine is needed, but a bare minimum client machine is needed because everything is going to get served from over the over from a web browser, by the way. So that means you can access the machines over the browser. You take any classical products also, like maybe I can give a good example, maybe is Microsoft, again, Office. Microsoft Office, back in days, we used to go store and we used to buy that particular CD or DVD and get it installed in our laptop, okay, or desktop, by the way. And slowly, so maybe some eBay or some online e-commerce portals were there. We used to order from there and we used to, install it and run it. Later, slowly, what Microsoft has done is, they are not really ready to sell the CDs and DVDs because no one now is really seeing CDs and DVDs, right? So then what they have done is they went with, so providing an exe file, you can directly download an exe file from their Windows, their Office web page. And typically you purchase a license, you get over the email and you install that license into the product and you can start using it. So that is how they changed. And now today, what they're doing is nothing is there. So they are just simply going as a subscription model. Now, what is a subscription model? So you simply open the browser and you get the Office. You pay like monthly, maybe $5, $10. You simply go ahead and use it. So there's no license also involved in this particular one. So there's a subscription model has been changed, and that is how it is going on. So I'm really okay. So focusing on the web-based applications, by the way. So the next slides are very important. Very relative to this particular point. So that's where I wanted to mention about this here. So let's move on to the next. So now typically if you look into there are different teams, by the way, so to make this particular product. So there are different teams which are involved in, so there are different teams which are involved in making a product, by the way. So there are typically like functional teams and technical teams, okay. So together working and getting, getting the product ready, by the way. So the functional teams may be a business analyst, or a project manager, okay, whoever have the domain knowledge. So they say that, hey, we are looking for this feature. And so we need this particular feature to be developed, something like that, okay. And so those particular inputs come from the business team or the functional team. And once we get those, by the way, so those are, we can call it as requirements phase. But in the waterfall model, so now we used to collect the all those particular functional requirements at once. Then we jump onto the design and development, by the way. Okay. So once we collect the requirements, it takes a longer phase to collect the requirements and everything is ready. So then they get on to how to design that particular one. So, okay. So there is a feature of sending a message. There's a messaging feature I want to add in my application. Okay. What are the tools? and what are the tools available out there, and what is the best work for us, by the way. So that kind of a design they'll try to do. There are different programming languages. What works best for us? There are different types of databases. What works best for us. So they'll kind of do a design, by the way, and finally get into the action. So they will start doing the development, by the way. Okay. So and once the development is done, so so there'll be testing people comes into picture. They'll find out some, so the bugs, if there are any issues with the code, they'll report to the development and everything. Once the final product is ready, so finally it gets to the client to use over the web. And there is some operations teams come into picture to so support that particular website. So that means you're accessing a web page. That means there is there is definitely some sort of application hosted in somewhere in some server, by the way, right? So that is where so the maintenance team comes into picture. Now, if I just try to make a tabular view of the teams which are which is available for these particular different areas, especially on the requirements gathering, by the way, you will have the business analyst, and you'll have program managers, project managers. Different companies have their different names and different teams. Okay, different structure. Okay, different naming convention will be there. But typically, we should be calling him as a business analyst. A BA will be there. Maybe on top of BA, so there'll be a PM, program manager, project manager. These people will come into picture. Okay, and after that, so then the design come into picture. When the designing coming into picture, the development architects will be there. There's a senior developers will be there. So who actually maybe a CTO level or something like that, or CTO, CXO, maybe at that particular level. So the people will be there. So think about, so what is the design we need to make it? So what are the tool stack we should be using? And all those particular things. So they'll be designing. So for the development, what are the things? Maybe let's go with a Java language. Let's go with a Python language. Let's go with the Oracle database, or let's go with the Hadoop database. So all these particular kind of different thoughts will come into picture. They design the things, and once they design the things, then the development come into picture. The developers, app developers. Okay, so app developers will be there. So there are multiple areas will come into picture there. So if there is a mobile app involved, mobile developers will be there. There's a web application involved. So there is a front-end UI developers will be there. And there is a backend will be there, so the backend applications will be there. So there are different teams out there again. Okay, different people. I don't call it as a different team. Maybe I'll call it as a different members in the team. So who is going to come with a different background, and they work on their appropriate areas. Again, QA is quite common thing. So you'll be having, so the QA people will be there. So to test out the product. Now now the major maintenance come into picture, or the deployment come into picture. That means, so that once the app is developed in waterfall, maybe, over a months of effort has been kept, or sometimes the years of effort also has been kept, like 1 year, 1.5 years, or 2 years of time has been kept as an effort to make the product. And once the product is ready, so we want to serve it to the customer. Now it has to be hosted somewhere. Okay. Now back in days, we used to have our own data center. In our data center, we used to have our own servers. In that particular servers, we used to have some application software to run the application. Okay. Now there is a team who maintains that particular application software, which is called as a middleware team. Okay. Inside the middleware software, they're going to keep the application, and there's a team who is going to manage that, and their team is called as a middleware team. Okay. And there are certain persons for this, because it has to be monitored 24/7. Okay. And the team has to be maintained 24/7. And after that, so this middleware need to be run on an operating system, isn't it? So that means what you need, by the way, an OS is needed. And this particular OS, okay, so OS engineers are needed, or the operating system team is needed, or the operating system experts are needed to maintain the operating system. And these guys, so unless until an OS is running, the middleware cannot run. Okay, so that means the OS also 24/7. There are certain teams out there, or certain members in the team out there. And so the data is very important for our application, and it gets stored in our storage maybe. So the storage team comes into picture. Okay, the experts of storage. And we need to take the backup of the data. For an example, you take the business like bank or insurance. They have to maintain the track of certain things. Like, let's say you go to a bank and ask for a last 5 years of the statement. They have to provide you. Okay, so that means the data is very important, by the way. And even the other businesses also, the data is very, very important, because on a long term, the data is going to provide us a very good results in understanding, in doing some sort of retro analysis, understand, okay, what are the things earlier and what are the things current. So comparing the things and can be done a lot of wonders, by the way. So that's where, the data, I mean the other data things will come into picture, right? So the data science comes into picture on top of data. If you have so much data with you, okay, a data science and data engineers, data practices, things comes into picture. So that's where the backup is also very important, where you store your data. And connecting all these particular devices, you require a networking team to have a network. And again, so all these particular things runs inside a data center, and there are certain people should be there in the data center, should be running again 24/7 to ensure all these devices are working without any issues. And of course, any application is going to have some databases, by the way, and a database team will be there. And also there'll be some infosec team will be there. So for security related issues, right? So to avoid typically the hackers, okay, not entering into our application, what are the practices to be followed and all these particular things. So infosec team also comes into picture. So these are all the different teams which are involved in just running the application. Try to understand. So just running the application. So our major area is to talk about this. I mentioned in detail of different teams. Maybe on the development also, we can just go ahead and talk like, so maybe front-end developers or mobile developers, mobile also, iOS developers, Android developers, back-end developers. We can also categorize that. But our major interest is majorly on this particular area. So that's where I'm just trying to explain this. Now, these many teams used to be there, and there are. Yes, this is the reality, by the way. These many teams were there just to run the application, by the way. Okay. So this is what is happening in the waterfall earlier, back in the maybe a decade back. This is what the story. Now everything is fine. So that is what is the history, by the way. Now, where is this particular DevOps is really coming from? Right. So our DevOps area or the DevOps practices majorly coming from, so basically because of the agile, okay, agile methodology. In agile, the fundamental agile methodology tells is, okay, you get into the market. So you get into the market as soon as possible and be the first one to serve your customers. And that's where you grab more customers, by the way. All right. So the first one who is into the market will definitely have the more customer base. Maybe a best example is WhatsApp. Though there are so many platforms or applications came into picture, so better than WhatsApp, still WhatsApp is leading because it is first in the market. Maybe that is just one of the reasons. It's not like the only reason, just one of the reason. If that is the case, like I can give another example. Maybe on the search engine and as well as in the emailing services, Yahoo was the first one. At least MSN and Yahoo was there earlier, and Google came later, but Google took the replacement of that, right? So it's not that the same point every time, but yeah. So I just want to give a typical example where it where it made successful. Okay, so not everywhere it's gonna be true again. So sometimes the products which come later also will get replaced with the older ones. So that is where, so the agile is going to come up with a shorter time of short version of the product, by the way. So they're not going to build, like, let's say we have 100 features in our mind, will not go with all the 100 features development in the very starting. So they will go with what is essentially needed, that is technically called as MVP, minimal viable product. Okay, so that particular minimal viable product will be built and serve to the customer. So for an example, WhatsApp, again as an example, now WhatsApp also has started with an MVP, and then they have so many features now, right? So what is the MVP of WhatsApp? Send the message over the data. So back in, maybe I remember it came in 2008, if I'm not wrong, 2008 or 2009, 2009, that is era. Okay, so where the pain of SMS, by the way. So the SMS was so costly, and so WhatsApp has thought, like, so there's a potential possibility, you can send the data, you can send the message over the data for a free of cost, right? So they came up with that idea and they succeeded. Okay, they didn't stop from there. So they added so many features, isn't it? So today WhatsApp is a big business also. Okay, without WhatsApp, at least we don't have a business. Even as a trainers, by the way, we cannot run our business without WhatsApp. So that is how it is holding today, right? So they went it in so much different directions. So that is how the in Agile, by the way. So there's going to be small feature, and always we are going to enhance with the features. That means in a very short term, we are going to release the features. And typical release cycle of an Agile is every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks you will get a new feature. And if you have observed your mobile applications, especially, I'm not sure if you observe your mobile updates, by the way, but if you go through the mobile updates, every alternate day, at least if you maintain maybe 100 applications, 100 mobile apps in your Android mobile, so at least every 1 or 2 days, you'll find out at least one app coming as an update. Some other app will be there for an update, right? And at least in couple of months, you'll get a mobile update also. They'll say some improvements. You'll see some update. If you're using Windows also, some are other days, some are in couple of other days, not other days, by the way, other months. Okay, couple of months, you'll see an update coming up. See why this is happening. Very frequent updates will come into picture. Okay, in Agile, because behind the scene, they're following the Agile methodology. In Agile methodology, this is how it goes, by the way. And so rest of the teams are still same, by the way, especially on the place where you deploy your application. And that is the area which is owned by a person called as an engineer who follow these certain practices like a DevOps, okay, which that particular person is now called as a DevOps engineer. Okay, now a question. Okay, everything is fine. So the table, it looks nice, by the way, but look about the possibility, by the way. So how many teams we talked about? At least there are 6-7 teams we talked about, right? Now 6-7 teams work. Can a single person can be made? So that's a logical question, right? Can this person can do this much work? And yes, it can be done, right? So with the right tool in place, isn't it? With the right tool in place, it is definitely possible. Okay. So for an example, maybe a worst example, but what is an example from our day-to-day life, by the way? So maybe so 500 years back, if I want to ship, if we want to, okay, so move a person from one place to another place. Okay, let's say for an example, you have maybe a small carts of horse carts or buffalo carts or whatever it is we have, those transports. I mean, the transport systems that time we have. So hardly can take like 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, something like that, right? So not more than that. But you have the right tools in place right now. You have machines and you have so tools in place. Now you think about so how the transportation is happening, right? So think about that. So that's where the right tool in place, maybe so you can do a larger work. So that's the simple fundamental again to here as well. Yes, the DevOps engineer can do that, but the things is he needs right things, by the way. Now back in days, we used to have a middleware team. Now that middleware, to maintain the middleware application or middleware softwares are no more really needed in the market, because on the development side, so they moved they moved from an era of monolith to microservices. So they used to make a big applications. Now they're making small pieces. Okay, the developers has changed now. Okay, rather than making big piece, they're making small pieces and clubbing together. So now, well, there are small pieces. Managing is much easier. So that's where the middleware guy is no more needed in the market. So because the development is completely changing, the middleware ideology, middleware practices, middleware tools are no more needed in the market. So that's gone. Okay, and microservices are there, so which is fine. So it can be easily managed. The next one is OS team is there. So OS team used to maintain the operating system, okay, on top of a hardware, and these guys are very crucial. Now we are going with the cloud services. There are a lot of vendors who is providing cloud services like Amazon or Azure or Google Cloud. Okay, so there are different vendors out there who is offering the services of an infra, and you get an operating system. Okay, so from the vendor, and they maintain it. Okay, most of the effort they will maintain it. All you need to do is you take a machine, run your application. That's it. Rest everything they will take care. So this OS guy is also necessarily not needed. Now OS become in such a way that now Linux, especially when we talk about the Linux OS, okay, so or a Windows OS, Windows Server or Linux Server, these are the two things generally we have. Windows is very less. Okay, if you keep 100%, it doesn't even cover 0.5% also in the market usage. Okay, in terms of server world. Okay, so that's where that's an ignorable number. So when we talk about OS, it's mostly like, so server operating system, it is Linux, by the way. And Linux typically, so back in days, we used to do installation, configuration, okay, management of them. All these are needed, by the way. But now, no, there is no installation, configuration, most of the things. Those are being done by the vendor. Okay. So the vendor will simply give you a machine, and on the machine, you run your application. So we are taking a machine to run an application only, right? Whether maybe is a database application or is a backend application or a front-end application, doesn't really matter. I'm running an application. My goal is to run an application. I don't want to really bother about the operating system, what is there inside it, because the vendor can support that, right? So that job is gone. No more needed because clouding is coming into picture. So that is essentially not needed. Now the next one is coming into picture is storage. Again, the same answer. The storage is provided by again as a vendor. In a very simple few clicks, you're going to get the complete storage. Whatever the storage team used to maintain their, so their strategies, simply you're going to get as a very simple. Okay, now just in very few seconds itself, you can set up the storages in cloud. Okay, so this is dead tech long back. Okay. And then backup teams also, the cloud will take care. The cloud services are there. You're going to use most of the cloud services, and the cloud itself will come up with most of the backup systems. Okay. And that's where, to really bother about it. And there may be some of the backups you have to, still take up the backups. There are certain teams, there are already some running teams somewhere. So you can leverage them. So, okay, it's not a big deal, by the way. Okay, it's not our area of interest, especially. Okay, because to run our application or our application data backup, so okay, so we essentially no need a typical team to deal with that. Okay, so still we need the backup. So we have other ways, especially around the cloud. We have the cloud backups, by the way. So most of the people who use cloud, they keep the backup also in the cloud, by the way, usually. And finally, the network is also not needed because earlier network, so the cabling, all the devices, connectivity, all these things comes into picture. Now all those headache is gone. It's a cloud. It's very simple. Few clicks, you get the things. That network team is also not needed. I can manage my own thing. And the next one is data center. Data center is also not needed because data center itself is, you don't need it because it's all cloud services. They maintain it. You don't worry. And again, databases also, it's the same thing. So databases also, you're going to have clouds again. Cloud services are there. Most of the time, you might be leveraging the cloud services. So that's where typically no database team is needed. Okay. So, but some databases which are not supported by the cloud vendor. So there may be still some database teams you'll find out in our teams in general. Okay. Dealing with the databases. So typically what happened, by the way, so most of the time, so the effort which we are keeping towards our own, maintaining our own. So now we are taking the services. So while we're actually taking the services, so what is happening? So your effort of doing the work, or, so your effort of, so doing the things is very less now. Okay. And okay, will be replaced. And even over a period of time, the maturity around the development also has been cut down certain jobs around this particular area. And so the cloud services came into picture. So that's seen a very big difference, by the way. So this is how it is. So the DevOps engineer typically dealing with running the microservices around the cloud, including databases, by the way. And there is certain term you will generally hear, by the way, in the full process of the application releases, by the way. So the security also should come into picture, and whoever is actually following the security practices as well into their complete ecosystem as a part of this DevOps practices. Okay. So, and those particular teams are generally called as DevSecOps. It is DevOps or DevSecOps. Most of the time it is same. So there is no much difference, by the way. So fundamentally, DevSecOps is going to it is going to consider security in each and every layer, whereas DevOps typically may not be doing it. Okay, so which is fine, and so both more or less both are nearly same. Okay, no much difference around that. Now that is where what happened. You have many teams has been converted into a single person who is doing the job. And in order to do this again, so even though dealing with the microservices, even though dealing with the cloud, even though dealing with the databases, even though dealing with the infosec, now rather than dealing with manually, so now in the DevOps area and in the DevOps practices, we'll adopt tools again. Okay, again doing this, so your job itself is minimized. Again, doing this also will rely on a tool again. Okay, so it's not like again you go and do the things manually. Okay, and again you keep a larger effort. No, we are going to pick up tools and we are going to do with the tooling, or do the same work again with the tooling once again. Okay, and that is where the tools comes into picture in the learning, by the way. Right, and when we talk about, so when I talk about microservices especially, so you need to understand how big the microservices will be. Okay, so I just want to give a biggest applications that currently the market is currently, or the current reality currently we are seeing, or the market is seeing, by the way, the biggest applications of the microservices of today's world. Okay, so maybe some of the screenshots I just got it from Google, by the way. So Netflix is one of the well-known well-known microservice architecture, or at least Netflix is the first company who made microservices as the reality. Okay, first of its company who made the microservices is Netflix. Netflix is the company, okay, who made microservices as reality. And so if you look into the microservices, the answer you're getting is Netflix uses 1,000 microservices. If you see here, so the Netflix uses more than 1,000 microservices. That means think about how many big you are having. It's not like just one or two. All right. And also, like, if you look into the Twitter, by the way, so Twitter, so he's saying that they're having 1,200 microservices. Okay. And also, like, so if you look into the Uber, by the way, so Uber is telling that, so they're having 2,200 critical microservices. Okay, Uber runs on their own data center. Uber is not into cloud. At least the Uber app, whatever you are using, they are not into any cloud, by the way. So they are into their own data center. So still, you see that, so 2,200 microservices are there. So it doesn't really matter. So it all depends upon the business reasons, like whether to go to the cloud or not to go to the cloud, or however it is. Even though in your own data center also, you have tools to manage the things like a cloud, by the way. We call it as a private cloud. Okay, private cloud softwares are there. Okay, so that's where it is. The next one is, so maybe I just want to talk about, so how many clusters that Mercedes-Benz is having. Okay, so the answer you are getting is they're having 900 on-premise Kubernetes cluster. At a max, I worked around 50 or 52 cluster environment. My experience holds only, like, I worked in a place where I have only 50 or 52 clusters. 52, if I'm not wrong, 52. Yeah, I think 52 number of clusters is the number that I worked on. Okay, but you go to the Mercedes-Benz, they're saying that they are having 900 Kubernetes clusters. So things are not going to be simple. That's what I wanted to mention, by the way. So when you do, okay, so even though there is a DevOps engineer, so when you have bigger applications, the things are not going to be simpler. Okay, so that is where, so here, in bigger organizations, especially in the bigger organizations, the role of the DevOps engineer is going to cut into two pieces, by the way, or categorized into two pieces. One thing is you ensure your code has been developed by the developer. Now, where is your role, by the way? What is your work here? The code developed by the developer, tested by the QA. So we need to take that particular code and we need to make it available to the end customer. Okay, without any issues. That is very important. So you have to take the code and you have to make it available to the end user, because they are accessing over the web application. That means the servers which is running that particular code, you have to keep that particular code. and ensure while you're keeping, you follow the best practices to have, so that you will be having a minimal downtime, okay, or minimal issues or whatever it is. Okay, you need to have a very important, you need to follow certain practices and the right tooling to ensure that you deliver that without any issues. And the second thing is, once it goes there, everything is fine, it is running, the customer is also using it. Now, while the live time, okay, or the application is live, is while it is running, you need to ensure there are no downtimes involved for this particular live application. Once the application is live and it is running, okay, so you need to ensure your application should never have any sort of downtime. Okay, so for an example, a couple of days back, okay, you have seen that, so Microsoft has seen a biggest outage, okay, so on its on its tech stack, especially around Outlook and as well as the chat services, right? So so that has so that has impacted in the market also. Okay, so on a day that it when it happened, so they have seen some downfall. Okay, on that day they have seen their share is getting affected. Okay, things like that, because just minor things, but that's okay. So that is fine. But however, okay, it impacts the business. That is also very important. Okay, so that's where your application running with minimal downtime is very important. Okay, so that is a very important target for your roles, by the way. And on the organizations, while you're working on very, very big applications, so these two roles generally will be categorized or split into two teams, by the way. And whoever is the team who is going to work on the development side, so take the code and ensure that get deployed smoothly, is the guy who is called as a DevOps guy. And so the guy who is actually so going to maintain once it is actually deployed is called as an SRE guy, site reliability engineer. Okay, on the bigger organizations, it is going to be two sort of, this role of a DevOps engineer is going to cut into two pieces, especially on the development side is called as a DevOps side, and whereas an operation side, it is called as SRE side. But a lot of people actually, so misusing the terminologies, by the way. But yeah, I won't call it as a misusing. It's their comfort, they are using that way. So DevOps development, DevOps operations, a lot of different words are being used. But typically on the market, by the way, so this is how you generally have it. Okay, so the DevOps means generally on the development side, SRE means on the operation side. But I consider myself as, when I say the training, by the way, I want to consider both the things. Whoever does is called as a DevOps engineer. Okay, at least where I am coming from, and my experience tells me that whoever does both the things is called as both the things is called as a DevOps guy, not some part, by the way. Maybe in the bigger organizations, for better organizing purpose, they come up with these particular practices. But if you come to the smaller organizations, to the smaller projects or a medium projects, okay, DevOps engineer does both the things. So this is how we are going to have a role of a DevOps engineer in the current business world. Okay, so that comes to the second point of our agenda. So we talked about what is before DevOps and how the DevOps has been evolved. Now, what is these DevOps roles and responsibilities, right? Now, other point, by the way, so the DevOps is actually taking the big ownership of replacing so many people, and that can be done by replacing the tools, right? So using the right tools. Now, the big question come into picture. So what are the tools that I need to use? Okay, the big question, like even to you or to, okay, for me also there is something, a problem comes into picture. So what is the what are the tools that I need to teach? And you are a learner, by the way, so you should have a question that what are the tools that I should learn? Okay, at least if you have done some if you have done some groundwork, I mean, you might have seen different course curriculum, different trainers teaching different types of tools, isn't it? Of course, right? So that is definitely is there in the market right now, isn't it? So someone teaches Amazon, someone teaches Azure, someone teaches Kubernetes, someone teaches OpenShift. Okay, someone teaches Jenkins, someone teaches maybe GitHub Actions, like GitLab, whatever it is. See, there are a lot of tools is there. Okay, now there's a big question. What is the right thing to learn for you? And for me, the same question, what is the right thing to teach, right? So this is where, to bridge this particular gap, there is a wonderful website which is available, okay, which is a community is there. And this community is going to help us in, so telling us what is that we need to do. And that is where the roadmap is a community, okay, in GitHub. In GitHub, this is the 6th most starred project, okay. So there is a roadmap, okay, or roadmap.sh. This is the website. This is their website. This is actually from their GitHub. And if you see here, so they are telling that, so this is the 6th most starred project in GitHub. Out of all the millions of projects you have in the GitHub, so this is the 6th most starred project, okay. That means, so you see these many number of likes are there in the GitHub. And so there's a good community, okay, so which is actually telling that, hey, you want to learn certain things, we'll provide a roadmap. Now you want to become a front-end developer, they provide a roadmap. So you want to become a front-end developer, learn these particular things. Okay, now coming back to, okay, so backend, you learn these particular things. You want to become a DevOps, DBA, by the way, you have these particular things. Okay, they're telling you learn these things. Same way, DevOps also, they are giving the same thing. Okay, you want to learn a DevOps, you learn these particular things. Okay, so learning these particular things, you will become a DevOps engineer. Typically, you will be called, or these are the needs which is needed. Typically, these are the things which is needed in the today's market. That is what they are going to tell. So, I mean, this community who is going to suggest the things is going to consider that on true criteria. One is, what is the trend in the market right now? Plus, what is the...
1 second. So screen is still the white screen. Roadmap. No, we are not able.
I'm really sorry for that. Yeah, I was actually trying to... Yeah, this roadmap.sh is the website I was talking about. And here's the 6th most start project I'm talking about, right? So this guy actually stays in the 6th most place in the number of likes. So there are different roadmaps. Okay, so here you have front end, back end, so like this. And so front end means they'll tell you the front end related things, and the back. Okay, DevOps means DevOps related things. And over here, like I was talking about, I mean, they are going to suggest the things on 2 criteria, by the way. One is, what is the trend in the market? What is the current trend? What is the more used in the market? Okay, that is one reason. And the second reason is, towards to this is, what is the futuristic scope? Okay, so today it may be less usage, but there is a potential improvement can be there on the tomorrow's market. Okay, so on that particular basis also they'll suggest you the things. Now what I do is I cherry pick the things from here. Okay, how I do the cherry pick is because here they are telling, so there is a personal recommendation, by the way. Okay, from this community, what is a personal recommendation? So that particular pickup thing, I'm going to pick it up. Now coming down to the majorly to the tooling section, by the way, especially here. Okay, now on the container side, so they're telling Docker. So there's a Docker in my syllabus. Okay, and so maybe GitOps were actually, so exclusively the GitOps is actually happening on the Argo CD. We mostly deal with the Jenkins side. Okay, which is also now GitOps is majorly, so especially around the GitOps, so Git related, or GitOps is especially like, coming, separate tools are coming, especially. So that's where certain tools are coming into picture. Now I need to think about, so certain things to be added in the, so syllabus, that's okay. But still, this will cover this with Jenkins, by the way, or maybe, so since these guys are actually trying to tell this, maybe we'll have an overview of this particular tool as well. No issues. Okay, we can include this in that one. And on the service mesh, Istio is there. So we will cherry pick this particular one. And on the secret management, they are telling there is a vault, by the way, but I'm not giving vault. So since we are using cloud, by the way, and this is vault is a generic tool, and we go with the cloud specific tool in this one, because our ecosystem is more around the cloud, and this particular tool is more generic tool. Doesn't really matter whether you use it on the cloud or non-cloud, doesn't really matter. On that particular criteria, they have given vault. But however, doesn't really matter. Okay, so whichever the one we use, at end of the day, the same thing. So we are going to go with the cloud native tool. So in the cloud, you have services available. We'll be going with that. And again, so container orchestration, Kubernetes is there, and I have Kubernetes in the syllabus. And on the configuration management tool, Ansible is there. We have Ansible in the syllabus. So we have infrastructure as a code is there in the, infrastructure as a code is there, especially like infrastructure provisioning. So you have Terraform. So we have Terraform in the syllabus. And next, CI/CD tools, by the way, there are a wide variety of tools. So we are going with Jenkins, okay, in this particular area. So many tools are there around CI system. So we pick up, we do the cherry picking again, right? So Jenkins is the one which we are dealing with. And again, log management, by the way. So we're also again cherry picking with Elastic Stack. So they're suggesting Elastic Stack. We'll go with Elastic Stack. And so infrastructure monitoring. So they're telling Prometheus. We'll go with Prometheus. And also there is some other tool called as Grafana. So Grafana is really not an infrastructure monitoring tool, but they didn't actually kept a separate category. So that's where including here is a separate tool. So Prometheus plus Grafana is what we are going to do. So because these guys are actually telling it, okay. And application monitoring, New Relic is there. So we added that we have New Relic in the syllabus. And so we have the patterns, by the way. So we'll cover all these particular patterns in our syllabus, okay. And also we'll be doing is the cloud providers, by the way. So they are suggesting either you can go with these three suggestions. We're picking Amazon in our syllabus. We are dealing with those particular things. And about this, we are actually having we are actually having the OS related things and their strategies also we'll talk about anyhow. So different things will be coming into picture. So we'll cover these particular things also in our training. So this is what is the so the tooling what we are actually trying to do, by the way. Now how I am actually trying to pick up the tools is from this website. I'm picking up the tools, and for you also it is a good thing that you have a roadmap. Someone is suggesting that a good community with their experience, it is suggesting that hey, you learn these particular things, and a lot of confusion will go away. Okay, so that is where those are the tools which you are going to pick up, by the way, in our training. Now one more last thing, so before going with the questions, by the way, questionnaire session over here. Now these particular tools need to be delivered on a project. Okay, so we need to take a project and we're going to deliver on that particular project, by the way. Now we already seen that very big applications, you have 1,000 services, 2,000 services. Okay, very big applications we're talking about. Okay, now eventually we cannot simulate that much thing inside our lab, no doubt in that. But again, okay, at the same time, I cannot teach you one component also. One service, if I teach you, there is no use. Okay, so today, at least, like a lot of online platform trainings are the trainers who teach, by the way. So they're teaching you the tools, no doubt in that. They're teaching well in the tooling stack. But I believe like, so just teaching with one component, okay, essentially may not bring the complexity of using a utility of a tool, by the way. Okay, so that's where we want to bring the complexity, and bringing that particular complexity, we are going to deal with a complex application. We're going to deal with a complex application. Now I cannot go with 1,000 services, but again, at the same time, we cannot go with we cannot go with one small service at the same time. And we wanted to go with a decent application. We want to take an extra mile here, and we are going to take a 11 microservices application, by the way. Total
Sorry.
11.
Again, screen is not visible. This is like white page.
Yeah, it's white page only. I don't have anything right now. Yeah, it's white page. That's fine. Yeah. So we are going to go with 11 microservices application. So we're going to take a 11 microservices. That is the first thing. And second thing is, so not only that 11 microservices, and now we are going to run that particular application on a huge load. Okay, I'll show you the screenshots from some of the batches. Okay, so maybe a completed batch. I can take this. So here on a completed, so we are going to take an application. We're going to run on 3 times, by the way. So we're going to run the we are going to run this application 3 times. We're going to call it as a mutable approach. Mutable is a legacy approach. Back in days, how you used to do that. So we are actually going to generate some load onto the application. And however, the real application runs with a real load, here also we'll go and run the application with the real load only. And during the load time, at that time, while the application is running, a lot of users are running. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a CI/CD. We're going to change the application because we are going to change the applications on a real running application. We're going to change the things. We're going to do the releases while the application is live, by the way. And during that time, so what are the errors that you're going to get it? So we are going to collect the errors. We have seen some errors. In a very short span, we see some errors because there is some changes happening and certain issues are being faced. And also generally, you also might generally observe, so sometimes you open something application, it won't work, but you do a hard refresh, it will start working. At least some or other way, you might have seen this, seen this behavior on the web application. So maybe for the first time, it will not work. You do a hard refresh, it will start working, right? So because, so during the first accessing of first time you're accessing the application, there were some errors. But when you do a hard refresh, by the time the change has been implemented, okay, and in 1 or 2 seconds itself. And that is where, we also do the same thing. So we are going to do this. And then we'll change the strategy to the immutability, by the way, and we'll start seeing the no errors. Immutable is the current cloud trend, by the way. So we'll do more of the immutable approach and you'll see this particular trend. And the same way, so now the last one, we're going to do it on the Kubernetes also. On the Kubernetes also, you will see the same thing. But on the Kubernetes, a very important thing that you will observe here is, so here, you can see that the latency of the application is also getting improved. We'll talk about anyhow. I don't want too much detail. So this is how a different, strategies. So here the strategy is, so something, by the way, so which is, okay, even giving the application is also very slow here. Even the application improvement also happened here. Okay. So that is where, okay, we will cover a gap between how the applications were there before a decade and during this decade, how the application has been evolved with the cloud. And now the current trend more happening on the containers, especially around the Kubernetes area, how it is going to work. So this particular bridge, we're going to do it. And all these particular tools are not just one by one tool. We don't do tool by tool, by the way. We are going to list down the problems. Okay. These are the problems which are listed down, and all these particular problems will be solved by different tools. By end of the training, this is going to get green. So for an example, I can pick up one of the batch, which is an ongoing batch. And on this particular ongoing batch, you will see these are all just, most of them are red color. So only a couple of them are just green right now. At this point of time, a very few are green, but most of them are red or orange, whatever it is. So these slowly, okay, over our 3 months training, so we will reach to an area where we solve these particular problems. Okay, there are a lot of problems. So for an example, a problem is how do you deal with your infra security? So we'll deal with that particular problem. Okay, so, and these particular problems, most of the time, the problems are asked by students. We'll have a discussion. Every one of you will be participated in the discussion. We'll list down that particular dashboard. So however we do in the organizations, we'll typically follow the same manner here. Okay, and we don't do an academic training here. We are not doing academic training. Academic trainings are different. Academic trainings means they teach you everything, come to the ending, they'll tell you small project, and from that knowledge, you have to go and work on the big project. Now, what we're doing is, we're not doing an academic style. We're going to have a big project. We're going to take the big project in the very starting. Okay, we'll fail, we'll have a lot of pain in the very starting, in the starting of the training itself. And we want to solve those particular pain points one by one with the help of tools. We have tools there. We'll solve the problems with the help of a tool. Okay, so, and however we do in the organizations, so here also we're going to do typically in this same manner. So that is how the training will be proceeding, and the tools you are going to learn not more in academic style, and it's more on a it's more on a practical way. Okay, engineering style. I'll call it as an engineering style. Okay, so now finally everything is good, but how this particular DevOps trend is there in the market right now? Every one of you has joined this particular training. Maybe you're looking for a job, or maybe you're looking for a transformation from your current role to another role, by the way, or to improve your skill set, or improve your knowledge, or whatever the things it is. So you decided to come to the DevOps side, but end of the day, so end of the day, it matters the money, right? So end of the day, we work for a salary. Okay, either you or me. So end of the day, what we take is very important, right? So that is where you need to understand the market of the DevOps. Okay, even I'm not sure. I'm an individual. I have a limited scope. I work for an organization. I have a limited scope of what I look in, right? So I don't have thousands or thousands of companies which are there in the organization, which are there in the market. I don't know what is their each and everyone's view, by the way, right? So, but there are people who does the analysis, market analysis. They collect the market trends, and there are different people, and from those particular people, okay, so from their web pages, I just copied, I just took some snaps from doing a different searches in the Google, by the way. So this is what is the it is telling. So for an example, like if you take here, so it is telling that so they are going to take 2002 2028. So they're expecting the market size. The market size in 2021 is a 7 billion, and it is expected to have a growth of 20%. Okay, so from their analysis, they're telling, and the DevOps market to be to reach USD of 32,000 some $1 million by sometime, maybe. Okay, so by 2030 it is telling. Right, so now DevOps market is going to hit so 30 billion by 2028. 30 billion market, that's people are saying. Okay, so whatever it is, so you're seeing billions of market, and the futuristic of the future years. It's not like the past years, by the way. So every screenshot over here is telling that the futuristic, there is definitely an improvement. Okay, and there is a lot of money involved in over here. Okay, so there are a lot of transformation going on in the market, and around this we'll definitely have a good market for a few years, at least the next decade. Definitely you will see this particular era continuing, by the way. And not only so these web applications today, there are a lot of different applications are coming into picture. Okay, so there are machine learning things are there. There are data engineering is there. There are data applications are there, by the way. Okay, so for those applications also you require engineer who maintain the applications. Okay, but either it may be a data related products or data related so projects, by the way, machine learning related projects, you require engineering. These guys is required. Maybe if it is an artificial intelligence related things, you require engineers. Okay, if it is anything is a software development, right? Maybe it's a web application, will have the same thing. Okay, I guess wherever, most of the areas you'll need these particular guys. Okay, so that is where this engineering practices is there from quite some time. Okay, it's not the new roles which came over the night, by the way. Okay, so these roles were there from quite some time, so at least if you see the 35 years of IT industry. Okay, so from past 30 years engineering roles are there, but they're transforming, and you have to transform accordingly. So today this tool stack is there, so tomorrow also there might be some other tool stack. You should be open to adapt, and adapt to learn those particular things and move on. Okay, so that comes to the most of my talk for today. And if you have any questions, you can please raise your hand. But most of the questions that generally most of the people would ask is there any prerequisite for this particular course? No, there is no prerequisite for this particular course. We'll teach you from the scratch. Do we require a coding knowledge? No. Okay, coding knowledge is a coding if you talk as a developer, by the way. So developer is the one who does the coding. But what we do is we kind of take the code. I already told the role, right? We take the code from the developer, we deploy it into the machines. But doing that, you require to do some automation. So that is we call it as scripting, and tools also will do that. We're leveraging so many tools out there. So the tools is the one which is going to do that. But to the tool, we have to give the input. Okay, so tool, we have to give the input, and that input you have to give it maybe you want to open a Google, you're typing google.com, you're typing google.com. That is an input you're providing, right? So that's a coding, okay, or something if you call it up, right? So that is not a coding, right? So you're giving inputs, okay? So that input you're going to give it in a text format, okay? It's more in a logical way. We call it a scripting or tool inputting, okay? Those are going to be the way that you do it in the DevOps side, by the way. And so who is eligible for this particular training? So there are all the areas, whoever I talked about earlier. So as a part of the waterfall model, especially the middleware guy, OS guy, storage guy, backup guy, network guy, a data center, a database engineer, an AppSec guy, okay, or it can be a QA persons also, or maybe some developers also, if they want to become a full stack developer or something like that. For them also it supports. And even there will be supporting teams like, app support team, so NOC support teams will be there, global support teams, so any support teams you are in, you can come to learn. And as well as if you're a grad, by the way, if you're a graduate, and if you are interested to start your career in in DevOps, by the way, you can come to this particular training. And if there are any other enthusiastic, so who is having some career gap or something like that, so if you're thinking about to get onto this particular area, yes, it is possible. And you can learn this particular training. And all you need to do is you need to keep the effort, by the way. Okay, if you are in this particular training, especially, I'm not going in academic style, I'm going in an engineering style, and I am expecting that you practice well. Okay, then only you take the best outcome of this particular training. Okay, and this course duration is 13 weeks. That comes to close to 3 months of time, and it is going to be 6 days a week. Every day we are going to have 1.5 hour session, and after 1.5 hour session, you'll get a recording. And once you get the recording, you can start doing your practice, by the way. So during the session, there is no practice. You need to focus on the session, understand what I'm doing. And also in the training, we're going to follow other practices called as greenfield practices, greenfield approach. Greenfield approach is again, as an engineering practice, it's not an academic style. In academic style, they'll always prepare everything. Okay, come to the session. Come to the session. They'll just run that particular one, show that, they'll explain you everything, and they mark it as it is completed. But we don't do that way. So whatever we do, by the way, everything is being done in the training itself. In the training only we'll do it. Whatever we do, you do in the training. Before your eyes only will be done. Nothing behind the scene. Okay. So that way you will understand, how do you implement it? How do you implement the things as well? Okay. So we go with the greenfield approach, and we do everything during this session. And that's where during the session, you need to follow me, what I'm doing. You need to ensure that you don't have any logical gap on what I'm doing. And post that session, you'll get a recording. You go with that, and you can practice that particular one. And so general question usually people ask, is there any different trainer for different topic? No, I myself will cover all the topics. I'm a single point contact for all the technical things, by the way. Okay. And the training covers how many projects? Like, as I mentioned, in an engineering answer, I can also tell in one thing, by the way, a person who has built 100 homes, of each home is one floor, versus a person built one building which is 100 floor. Okay, so the person who built one building with 100 floor is more technical than a person who built 100 buildings with one floor. As simple as that. Okay, now rather than talking about 4 or 5 projects of small things, you take one big project, you do that particular big project, and you get most of the complex things, and you learn most of the complex things. Okay, so that is my belief, and I'm following that particular one. And that's where this project is really going to help you. It's not going to be a very simple project. It's going to be an IBM project, by the way. So we're taking the IBM project, and so from their IBM GitHub page, and we are delivering that particular project. And it's $1 million project for IBM. It generates millions of dollars. And even in the roadmap.sh also, their product was listed. Okay, in the DevOps roadmap.sh/DevOps, whatever we have seen our DevOps roadmap, their product is listed there. Okay, whatever the project we use, that project is listed there. It's a pre-sales project, by the way. So we are going to take that particular project, and we're going to deliver it. So don't get don't get okay convinced by the fancy words used by the marketing people, like, we teach 10 projects or things like that. So that's never going to be a useful thing. Again, I'm not commenting a very hard way. So generally, like, these are the marketing strategies people will use. So just think on yourself, by the way. So a person who builds 100 floor versus a person who build 1 floor a building. So who is a complex guy, right? So who has more knowledge? Definitely the person who built 100 floors, right? So the same thing applies on the projects as well. So we take a big project with 10, 11 microservices. This is big. Okay, this brings complex, and we'll learn the complexity here. So that's about the project, number of projects. And does this training cover practical part? I already mentioned this particular point. We are going to go in a we're not going in academic style, we're going in an engineering practice, and we do everything in the training. It's going to be a complete practical thing. So since it is practical thing, we are expecting that you also come every day, or you also spend minimum time at least every day to do a practice, so that so you will take the outcome of this particular training in a best outcome. Okay, you follow the practices whichever I talk about in the training. You just do that, and so whatever I ask, you do it, and that is more than enough. So for you to become a DevOps engineer, right? And last but not least, what you have here is so do we have a placement assistance? Yes, we have. So we'll promote to the students with the consultancies which we work with, and again, you have to go with the full exercise. It's not like so I don't say that you'll be just taken and kept in the job. Okay, so you have to go through the exercise of attending the interviews, clearing the interviews, even with the consultancies. But however, so since it is our so known consultancies, so getting shortlisted of your resume is much easier, and we will help you with the resume and all. How do you make it so that your resume appears better, by the way? So from the project, so whatever the project we do, the same project only will go into the resume. Okay, and okay, so and that is what is the support we give you. And the second thing is, and the last thing, by the way, maybe which is not mentioned here. So what is the lab support we provide, by the way? So the lab support which we are going to provide over here is there are two things that we provide on the lab support. One is the over the chat, by the way. Okay, so we'll be onboarded to our Slack channel, and where you can post your questions. There are a lot of enthusiasts from our previous batches who will answer your question. And if I'll be your point of contact for sure. I'll answer your question, but there are other people also. Okay, you can reach out or you can communicate, and they will be answering. They can tell you their experiences. It's like you will reach out to all the previous students, by the way, in that particular group. In that group, we'll have all the students, okay, of our previous batches. And and the next one is every day, okay, after 12 hours of our training, okay, so we'll have another session, okay, every day, by the way. So it's 5 day, it's on weekdays only. We will have another session just to take up your questions. If you have any okay, if you have any questions, by the way, you can reach out to us. You can come there and you can discuss. Maybe during the session you didn't got that particular thought in your mind. Maybe later while you're doing the practice, okay, you don't want to keep in the chat, do a long chat. You want to just talk verbally. You're free to join there, and you can talk anything, which is fine. Okay, so there's another window is also open for that particular one, so you can always come there, and okay, you can discuss the things. So there's an additional time we'll spend you with you out there, and also we'll conduct some one-on-ones on demand. Okay, whenever there is a need of connecting with you people, by the way. So we'll send out a one-on-one invites, and so you can directly interact with me personally, by the way. Maybe all the forums, okay, we generally so come interact with, okay, with a group, by the way. Now, rather than with that particular group, okay, you want to talk personally, maybe let's have one-on-one with me. So yes, that is also open. So we'll schedule that particular one. So that is also will be provided as a part of this particular training. All right. So, and also the recorded session of every day will be provided to you. And that recorded sessions is going to be a lifetime access to you. All right. So these are the things that we are going to give you as a part of your training. So now if you have any questions, so please post that particular question, just not like hi or something like that. So just post your question fully on your chat, or else please raise your hand so that, so you will get an unmute option. So to talk, by the way. So please go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, please do that. Thank you. Once again, thank you. I see already some raised hands. I'll come to you. One by one, I'll give you. But yeah, so I will just go with the chat questions. So first, there are a couple of questions which are already there in the chat. Let me read it out and answer them, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, and we'll take the live questions. So there's a question: what is the difference between Azure DevOps and AWS DevOps? It is only the cloud is a different. Yes. And the very high level, only cloud is the one which is different. Correct. Okay, I think screen stuck issues is already done. Can we know the certifications of our trainer that it will help us in getting up more confidence in the training? I don't have any certification. I have a couple of them. That's okay. But I actually not a guy of certification guy, by the way. And so there are certified guys who work along with me in the industry or even in the company, maybe my ex-colleagues or whoever it is, by the way. I am the highly paid, highly paid guy, by the way. Certification is necessarily not needed in the market, by the way. Certification is only maybe in certain roles it helps you. Maybe if you are applying for a contract roles, so that if we are actually taking you as a contractor, so that means so at least that gives a confidence that, so if I pick you today, so tomorrow morning you have to start working. On the day one, I expect you to work, and the certification will give us a confidence that, so that something. That's it. And and at least in the industry, by the way, there is a lot of certification processes are going on. At least wherever I have the visibility, by the way, in the organizations which I communicate, or the people I communicate, or the consultancies I spoke, or or the organizations I worked for, certification is no value. Certification will not bring it. Certification is only to learn certain things, and the vendor will give you certification that yes, this guy has attended my training. That's it. The vendor does not give you a 100% stamp given on that. This guy, you recruit him. Okay, they are not giving any stamp on you. They are telling only this guy attended that particular training. That's it. Okay, and passed. I kept some exam on top of that. He passed the exam. Okay, at least after COVID, by the way. Okay, after COVID hit, the pandemic hit, the certification value has been very much degraded in the market, because so there are a lot of certification proxies happening in the market. But I'm not saying that everyone is doing that. So you do certification only for the learning perspective. If you are talking me about my knowledge about the certification, see, I'm saying so so that is not the way how we generally evaluate a person, by the way. Even any person coming for an interview, on the top they keep 4 or 5 certifications. So there are 90% of the chances that guy get rejected, by the way. Okay, because he comes with a bookish knowledge. He doesn't comes with a practical knowledge. So there is and here is a reason that we call this as an engineer, by the way. We're expecting him to structure the things, do the work, hands-on work. So the bookish knowledge really is not going to help you. So do certifications only for the learning perspective, but that really not going to help you. But since the very straightforward answer which you have, so I have 1 Kubernetes certification, and I have two Amazon certifications I'm holding. Those are also I have done because I work for a consulting firm. Because the client, my company has to promote to the clients, saying that, hey, we have these many certified engineers which are going to work in your project. So to grab the project from them, so my certification matter to them. And the certification also paid by them, by the way. Okay, so that's how I got the certification. So there is no reason that based on the certification, I got recruited. And there's no reason that, based on my certification, they're giving me the pay. Okay, out of all the guys, okay, who are certified, by the way, I am the highly paid person in my organization, at least. Okay, I'm just telling you the reality answer, maybe too much lengthy answer, but that's okay. That's what is the point. So, and coming to the next one, a difference between Agile Scrum Master and DevOps, by the way. Agile Scrum Master is a person who is going to drive the Agile methodology development. Okay. So there is a separate person who sits in this particular Agile one. So who is going to take care. So DevOps engineer, we already talked about who is that. And so will you provide documents for learning purpose? Yes. The project which we are talking about, we are going to share those particular documentation with you. And the next things are so what all the green, we're talking about greenfield approach, right? So that means everything is going to be developed from the official documentation. We always refer the official documentation. We read the official documentation, we'll implement in our project. So however we do in the work in the organization, we'll do the same thing. So and whatever I have written will be shared with you. So for reference for your practice. Yes. And is it the project is an open source? Yes, project is an open source, by the way. And IBM is not worried about any IBM is not at all worried. So you don't worry about it, by the way. So IBM is not worried. See, one thing that you need to understand that, so open source, okay, open source is the big business. Okay. So now they give the taste of their product, right? Now they give the taste of their product. Now, once you taste their particular, now you go to a mall, or maybe you go to a shopping complex, or you go to a big store, by the way, there are some samples. Okay, they'll provide you. Now, why they provide the sample? To attract the customer. Okay, so open source is not bad. Okay, they provide you the taste of that particular product. Okay, and once you get to that particular taste, so you bind to that. Okay, you go and buy that, right? So that's the idea. So open source is not bad. And Red Hat as an open source company, Red Hat is 100% open source company. But today's in the IT world, okay, it is the highest. Okay, it stands in the now after Microsoft acquiring the gaming company, which is some $60 billion, by the way. So that stands in the first place. But when you talk about open source world, now Red Hat is a complete open source. Now IBM acquired Red Hat with $34 billion, which is the highest in the IT industry. Okay, so though their code is completely open, okay, IBM really don't need to, okay, so but by that company, they can take the 100% of their code, which is open into the internet. Okay, so it's not like that. It will not work that way. So open source will not work that way. Okay, so that's not going to be a variable point, by the way. And everyone will be working on this particular IBM project only. And next, and how do we clear our doubts every day? I think I already answered this particular question. So we are going to have a Slack channel, and as well as we're going to have a separate channel, a separate session, especially for answering your questions. Okay. Okay, let me put that particular point on the deck. Yeah, so I think you can see that. Right. And I'm just looking only for technical questions. Do we need to learn scripting before you're gonna? No, it's not needed. You will learn I will teach you. You will learn the things from here. And will you provide any certification after completion of the course? Yes, it can be provided if you want. That's fine. And is the recordings available for the lifetime? Yes. Answer is yes. Lifetime recordings will be provided. And we have different scripts in Ansible. And so how tough is master scripting? So it's not tough, by the way. So how much you keep the effort, by the way. So the more effort you keep it, so you become the more master. As simple as that. And I'm just more looking for a technical questions. So difference between Agile, I think I already answered this question. Shell scripting will be covered in this course. Yes, shell scripting is covered in this particular course. And how many hours we need to spend for this particular course? At least if you spend 2-3 hours after the training would be good consistently. Okay. And if you cover that during the weekend is also fine. Maybe during the weekday, you get only like 2 hours of the time. During the weekend, you spend 8 hours of the time. That is also good, by the way. So please do that. And and after this training, you can go ahead and comfortably say that, so 3 to 4 years of experience you can claim, by the way, to the market. So will DevOps also work for the developers? Yes, DevOps also works for the developers. There are a lot of people came from the development to DevOps engineer. And so there are, okay, so they're, and working as a DevOps engineer and came to here, learn the things and working as a full stack things. So, implement the full project on their own. Yes, people are doing that. It is useful only. So what are the challenges we'll face while deploying the AWS in real-time projects? Yes, those you'll see in the sessions, by the way. Already shown you a couple of graphs that we'll do in the real time. So that what are the, on the live application, we'll try to do what are the issues that we actually going to face there. We'll see it with your own eyes in the training. Okay. So can you help us in understanding CI/CD versus DevOps? What is additional tools that we need to learn to become a DevSecOps guy? So yeah, so that context we'll give it in the training, but once we cover at the end of the training, so once you are a DevOps engineer, so what are the additional things that you need to do as a part of it to become a DevSecOps? So I'll give you usually the context in the last part of the training usually. Okay, so that will be done in the training, no problem. And is each tool explained both theoretical and practical from basics? Yes, the answer is yes. And are companies really practicing CI/CD? And the answer is yes. And no need of shell scripting or Python programming in this DevOps role. And yes, it is needed and we'll teach you. So shell scripting will be taught in the training. And later you can go and learn any other scripting languages, additional scripting languages like Python or something in a scripting manner. You don't need to really go and learn Python in a programmer way. You can learn the things in a scripting manner. So we look in the terms of automating the things. And it's going to be easier once you learn the shell scripting. So course cover theoretical AWS or only AWS, both the things which is covered in practical, by the way, in the training. That's the answer. And how can we experience the real-time project as we mentioned earlier? So you are going to implement on your own. Whatever I do in a greenfield approach, you are going to do your own on your own lab. Okay, so that is where it is. You will feel the implementation part. And we are going to learn about. We are going to learn about cloud first. No, the answer is no. So I already told you we're not going to go with the academic style. We're going to go with a engineering style. That means like, we are going to work on a problem statement. There is a problem, how to solve that particular problem. So that problem solving things are very important even for the people who is attending the interviews, by the way. That gives a clear context that, if someone asks you, hey, why have you done this particular approach? And you can relate from the problem, by the way, which you learn from the training. Okay, so that would be better way. So what do you meant by microservice? Microservice means the service being split into multiple pieces is called as a microservice. And what is it in detail, you will get it in the training. And do we talk about different types of deployments? Yes, we talk about the different type of deployments, but we'll implement only one type of deployment. But other types of deployment, at least like blue green or recreate, or at least we do recreate and rolling deployment. The blue green, so we are actually so having some other additional videos. Okay, if you are really interested, you can take from us and you can watch and learn from that. The same project done in a blue green way. That's it. Okay, a lot of questions are still coming in. I'll take a pause on the chat questions. Maybe it becomes a bit bored. I'll take the questions from the voice, by the way. I'm just going to allow whoever has raised the hand, I'm going to allow to talk. So please try to, once you get a mute button, so please unmute and say your question. Yes, Satya, go ahead. Not able to hear you, Satya. Please check your mic settings. And let me do it. Yes, Anup. Anup, you have any question?
No, sir. No, it is being cleared.
Yeah. Okay. So whoever has so cleared your question, by the way. So please please lower your hand. Okay. Or let me do one thing. Let me do. I'm lowering all the hands now. Whoever have the question, please raise your hand now. Now I'll go. All right. So let me take one by one now. Yes.
Hey, Raghu.
Yeah.
Raghu, so actually, so this training includes from the fresher or for the experienced one? And second thing, like, how much the course, the charge we have to pay, and what is the process to pay?
Yeah, I'm not the guy to talk about the commercials, by the way. So
Okay.
whoever has discussed you to join this session, please check with. Okay, so I will be helping you only with the technical things here.
Okay.
And for your previous first question, by the way, the answer is so we'll do a full sine wave. We'll start from the scratch, and
Okay.
we'll go to a so the way that how do you implement the project in the organization. So we'll do the implementation, right? We'll do a full sine wave. Okay, so from scratch to the advanced way. So maybe like it can be attended for a fresher or even for an experienced person. For me, audience, both guys are same only. Like it won't be much difference here.
So if you don't mind just asking, you are providing this training from India or from US?
I'm right now in India.
Okay. So then what time like you are going to schedule the batch?
You are from which time zone, by the way?
I'm in IST only. I'm from Hyderabad.
Yeah. So it is from 7:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Okay. And the weekend session you talk, right? I listen that word as well. So on weekend, we can also join that session or not?
No, there is so there is a QA session, especially we'll be having a second session also will be there every day.
Oh,
And, okay. So if you have any questions, by the way, so while you're doing the practice, if you want to talk to me verbally, and there's another session which we run, so you can join there. That's a thing. Yeah, that's completely optional, by the way. It's not mandatory.
okay. Okay.
There
So
is no
particular
exclusive
session
weekend.
will be there for 7:30 to 9 every day for Monday to Friday, right? Or Monday to
Saturday.
Monday to Saturday. Okay. And then it will take 4 weeks. That you said, right? No.
13 weeks.
13 weeks. Okay. Like 3 months. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll check the commercial with the respective person.
Yeah. Yes, Anil.
Yeah, hi. I have a question like about the Kubernetes and Terraform. Like, does it mandatory to get a DevOps job?
Yes, those tools are mandatory. At least if I interview a person, if a guy comes up with no Kubernetes, no Terraform, then no pickup of the resume from my side. At least that's what I do. So, and also like roadmap.sh also we're talking about, if you are a DevOps engineer, these are the must things that you should know, right? So then only you can call it as a DevOps engineer. That's what even they are telling, right? So it is a must.
And like, are you going to give any scenario questions or interview kind of questions at the end of the session or end of the
We're
talk?
already doing a greenfield approach. That brings us a lot of problems. We'll solve a lot of problems. You will get more than what you're asking.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Raju.
Are you hear me?
Yes.
So actually, I came to know that before we are going to learn DevOps, actually it is must and should you should learn any cloud technologies like AWS or Azure. But now we are learning both together, right? So is it fine or else how it would be?
See, it's all learning ways. It's all can be done in different ways. That's where the roadmap.sh, these guys are not telling any prerequisite, right? So this is the roadmap. They're telling the journey, by the way, you start this way. We'll also start this way. Maybe the cloud is coming at the ending, not in the very starting also. Just try to understand. So it's a part, not also at the end also. I don't want to say that. It's a part of it. Okay. So whether you do it in the earlier or in between or middle or at the ending doesn't really matter. It's a part. Okay. So, and we cover it as a part of this particular training.
Okay.
Yes, Raju. Or Mahendra, sorry. Mahendra, go ahead. I'm not able to hear you. Shravan, go ahead.
Yeah, good. Able to hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. I am currently having 7+ years of experience, and my role is senior software. Here, what are the roles that we play, like senior versus and normal software engineer? Can you explain the roles?
Especially in Agile, by the way, your level of experience will not define your role, by the way. Everyone is same. So I'm holding 15 years of experience. Whatever I do, by the way, so whoever joins as a grad in my team also will work the same thing. It's not like the grad, you have to do that, or I'm a lead guy, I have to do this. No. In Agile, by the way, Agile at least will consciously tell that it's not that way. Okay. So you pick up a task, whoever picks up that particular task has to complete that particular task. Maybe my experience will help in suggesting the people, okay, you do this way, that way, or based on my experience. So my role might go with some sort of, backlogging, grooming around the list of tasks, maybe talking more onto the, project level discussions. Certain things will come into picture, but end of the day, everyone can be doing the same thing. It's not like typical CMMI level way of the role structure. You'll not have it around the Agile, especially. Yeah. So.
And what is the salary expectation?
That all depends upon the different criteria, by the way. So it depends upon your existing salary. And so certain companies negotiate on your existing salary. Certain companies negotiate or give what their company standard is. Some companies, okay. So, so it depends upon your skill set, by the way. So they will, they'll deny everything and they'll give you the best of the industry, by the way. So, and there are people at least in around DevOps, even taking 8x, 9x package. Okay. So 8x, 9x package means if that guy is with 2 years of experience, if say 8x, then he is expected to, or he's getting 16 lakhs of package. If he's 3 years of experience, he's getting 24, 25 lakhs of package in the market. They're getting that. And again, that all depends upon the skill. Okay. Who gets that? Skilled guy is the one who gets that. It all depends upon different criteria. Yeah.
Based on the interview performance. Right.
Yeah, Vinay, go ahead.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vinay.
Hello.
Vinay, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. I have 2-3 doubts which currently running in my mind. So my doubt might sound silly, but don't want. I just wanted to understand this. So I have understood as a major difference between waterfall and agile is the number of tools has been reduced. According to what you have explained, means workload is reduced. So is there any mechanical drawback did we get from the waterfall method in the process wise?
See, waterfall model versus agile is a methodology. Okay. They tell the methodology, you follow these practices. They don't tell the tools, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a methodology. Okay. Now the methodology of a traffic in India is you go on the left side of the road. The methodology maybe in other countries is you go on the right side of the road. Right? So when there is a red signal, you stop. Maybe you go to the Japan, by the way, there's a blue signal or something. Or I think, I don't know, the red signal. I think the green is here is go. There is a blue go, by the way. Okay, that methodology tells that. So that kind of project level methodologies will be there. Project level practices will be there. It's not about the tooling. Yeah, since those practices are changing, and to reach, to like, so to achieve that particular method or the point, we require rather than a manual effort, a tool can help you doing it in a better way. That's the idea.
Basically, my doubt is I didn't understood the major drawbacks why we stopped following that methodology of waterfall.
You want the drawbacks of waterfall?
Yeah.
Majorly the timeline, right? Majorly the timeline. So you spend two years of time, okay, so making a good product. By the time, like, so there is another competitor who is making the same product using Agile. In 1 month, he's into the market. Okay. Now, who is the one who is going to be grabbing the more customers, right? You are losing business, right? Business is the reason you lose business.
The time meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. The roadmap which you showed that will be updated frequently with the community people choices.
Yeah. You can see it's a Git repository. You can see the changes continuous.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, Krishna, go ahead.
Actually, it's not a technical one. I'm curious, like I don't have any IT experience, and I'm from chemical engineering background. I have like 10 years of gap. So is this true? Like without any prerequisite, without any knowledge of IT, can I start like DevOps with scratch?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Surya. Actually, I'm a civil engineering graduate, presently pursuing my master's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, what happening is two of my classes are getting overlapped with our DevOps course in a week.
Mm-hmm.
So can I depend on the recorded classes?
You can, yes.
Okay. And another doubt is, if I want to swap my career to data engineer, is it useful?
So data engineers also will have their own apps on, deploying somewhere and running them. Okay.
Okay.
And there also you can implement these particular tools and practices, and that's what everyone does.
Yeah, I don't have any. I have I can say I have zero knowledge on computer industry, as my bachelor's in civil and my master's also is in civil. So just a small doubt and curious. So can I sustain just on recorded classes?
Recorded is basically go through the recording, and if you have any questions, will still be there, right? So there is another window that you can reach out to.
Yeah.
Me. It's not like you're completely isolated. It's still same, but maybe you're not there in the live session to ask the question like how you are asking right now. Maybe you'll ask the same question in a separate session. In the same.
Yeah. So yeah, just I have to manage my part-time classes and course 3 at a time. So that's the issue I got.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the help.
Yeah. Yes. Sukin, go ahead. Today, or let me just recall what we have discussed yesterday. So yesterday we were trying to understand, okay, what were the things that we have before DevOps, and how the DevOps has been evolved, and what are the roles and responsibilities. What are the roles and responsibilities of a DevOps engineer? So we talked about it. So now, what are the two roles and what are the two roles and responsibilities that we discussed yesterday's session is? So the first thing is so ensure the code taken from dev, so kept dev means developer, okay, kept in server, okay, in smooth manner. Okay, smooth manner means no hurdles, nothing. Okay, that is one thing. And the second thing is, we discussed is, and the second thing we discussed is after deploying application. So deploying is nothing but keeping, nothing. There is no technical thing there. Deploying means keeping. Okay, if US is deploying army near Russia, so something like that as a statement. So that means like, so they're keeping something there. That's it. Okay, so we are keeping something inside the server. So it's a technical word, we just use it, by the way. So after deploying application inside server, we need to ensure it has 100% uptime. Okay, 100% availability. Okay, so these are the two roles you're going to have. Okay, majorly roles of DevOps engineer. Okay, so this is 2-point agenda. Like what all we do in our training, we wanted to achieve these two only. That's what we will do. Okay, everything is getting around to this only. Now try to understand. So now what we need to do is we need to ensure the code. We need to ensure to take the code from the developer and keep it inside a server. Okay, that means there is a server that comes into picture. It could be any server. All right, so on one of the servers, so we are going to keep it. So let's take a server. Assume this is the server. Now what we are telling is we are going to take the code from the developer. Okay, we're going to take the code from the developer and we are going to keep it inside the server. So this is the first thing. Okay, this is the first job. What is the second job? The second job here is after deploying the services to the server. So we need to ensure, okay, there is 100% availability. That means we need to ensure the server is running all the time. So that also is pointing to the same server. Try to understand. So the server is a critical thing that we need to understand here. So both the roles is directly or indirectly pointing to the server side only, isn't it? So that is where, so now today, what I'm going to set the context is, what is this server? How this server was, how this server is right now. Okay, so what is a server and all these particular things. In the today, the first point we're going to talk about is, so what is the server and what runs on the server and how to get a server and how to use that server. So that is the context I'm going to set it. Okay, I'll take up the question soon. So just until then, please hold. So let me cover certain very simple line of what is this server and what do we run on this particular server and all. Okay, so let's get it started. On the very high level to discuss, by the way, we are going to have a server, right? So start with very straightforward, we're going to have a server. All right, and this particular server, is actually going to sit where? So the server is actually going to sit somewhere in the data center. Okay, so that means I wanted to say is the server is actually there somewhere inside the data center. So see, I just give it a clip out of the server, but where is this server? How the server looks like? Okay, so where this server comes from? So all the servers of a company, so they sits in a data center. Okay, so how a data center looks like? It's a building. It's a simple building only. But inside data center, it looks like this. Okay, so there are servers kept like this. Inside data center, so there are servers typically kept like this, just to understand. All right, so any representation image is okay. So inside the data center, the servers looks like this. Okay, now those are kept in racks. If you just see this, those are kept in racks. Okay. And the servers actually, okay, so are kept inside the rack is called as a rack server. Okay. The server, which is kept inside, the server kept inside a rack is called as a rack server. Okay. The servers are actually kept inside this one. Okay. So that's where it is. Now the server, if you think, by the way, so the server or the representation diagram I have given is a tower, by the way. Okay. So server tower. Okay. So these are the tower boxes. I mean, typically our desktop, like, old days, you used to see the desktops, right? So those desktops are towers. Okay. But actually, so these towers are going to consume a lot of space. Okay. So just to, you see this, a good diagram for representing maybe, you see this. So this is, so going to take a larger space. And that is where the server world actually came up with something called as, a rack server. Okay. So this is the rack server. Okay, so this is typically a rack server that sits inside the rack. Okay, now this guys, if you try to understand, this is a rack server. He's trying to keep it inside the rack. Okay, try to understand. So even this guy also, this is a vertical rack, by the way. This vertical is called as a blade. This is another word for this, but that's okay. Just if you understand with anything is okay. So it will just get inserted into that particular rack. So that's what we need to understand. So this diagram is better, the right one. Okay. Now inside each rack, there'll be many machines. So inside the, inside the rack is that we are actually keeping the server, and that particular server is called as the rack server. Okay. It's a rack server. And inside this particular server, so there is some sort of operating system will be there, right? So, okay, inside this particular server, it is going to be some sort of operating system will be there. So that particular operating system, so inside this particular, inside this particular server, by the way, so there is OS actually runs, because without a OS, I mean, your laptops is also a machine, by the way. So there is no use, right? So that is where, so we are actually going to go with, okay, so an operating system running on top of this. So there is an OS, by the way. All right. So on top of this, so what comes into picture? An operating system comes into picture. Okay. An operating system is the one which comes into picture. All right. Now this operating system, okay, if I know the operating system, we can deal with the operating system. Now we are talking about servers, and it is going to be server operating system. Now this server operating system, okay, is all the operating system is Linux, by the way. Okay, the server operating system is Linux. Okay, the operating system that mostly sits on these particular boxes is a Linux box. Okay, Linux OS. Linux OS. Okay, so this is the operating system that runs on majorly on this particular server side. All right, and now, so once, okay, but actually what we're dealing with is, okay, we're dealing with a physical machine. We're dealing with a physical machine, and you need to understand how big these particular rack servers are. Okay, we just go with a Dell as a good vendor, by the way. So Dell rack servers. Okay, if you try to go to the rack servers, and if you see their configurations, by the way, now it is telling the price is this much. Okay, price is okay. But what you're going to see here is you're going to get like, so you can install 10 hard disks inside of that. Okay. And you're getting one AMD processor with this one, basic one. This is a basic server, by the way. And hard disk also you're getting 1.2 terabytes of hard disk. That much you're getting on this particular one as a default one. So with this particular cost. And of course you can go ahead and so add those, by the way. But if you go with a bigger servers, by the way, now if you see this, if you go to the bigger servers and the cost is something like this, but that's okay. So here you're getting 2 point, here also it is fine. So the first one, so here what is you're getting one CPU by default, and you're getting 1 into 16 GB of RAM. You're getting 116 GB of RAM. So this is what the server hardware, okay? And again, what we are actually going to have here, I mean, if you just like, let's say if I go to this, you can always customize this, by the way. So we can just go ahead and, so choose whatever I want. So I wanted to go with some sort of extra processor. Okay. And also I wanted to go with some sort of, memory slots, maybe. So how much it is supported is, I think it is supported only this much. So 7 slots it's coming maybe. Okay. So if I go with a bigger one, something like 7 slots is coming. So this is the price it is coming, and that is okay. But try to understand. So this is what it is. So you have a big RAM now coming into picture. So 7 into 16 GB. 7 into 16 GB. So that's where, so it is going to be the bigger size. We need to understand these are all big sizes will be there. Okay. So 16 size, that means like 112 GB of RAMs and all will be there. So typically when actually we procure a server, generally in the organizations, generally it is going to be, I mean, when we actually procure, when we actually try to procure the hardware, we take a big machine, by the way. Now on top of big machine, we'll create small machines. Now today's world, actually, when we talk about a server, it is never a physical server. Now the server, what I shown you here is a physical server. It's a physical box. Now inside this physical box, no one is actually trying to go with the direct physical boxes today. Okay, because physical boxes, if you go with the many physical boxes, okay, now your data centers is going to be, so too much big, by the way. Rather than that, what we actually do is we take a big servers. Each server is going to be a big server. On top of that, what we're going to do here is called as a virtual machines. Okay, so that's where the direct operating system, which is running on the directly running on this particular operating system, is not the Linux OS. We generally call it as a bare metal. Okay, bare metal OS. Now there are certain softwares, okay, which is also an operating system. These operating systems will help you in creating a virtual machines. The bare metal is something. So a bare metal OS is going to help us in creating small virtual machines. Okay, now bare metal OS is basically, bare metal OS is basically the one which is going to create is going to create a small virtual machine. Small or big, it's going to be created as a virtual machines. It's also typically called as a hypervisor. Okay, but if you just understand this as a bare metal OS, that means like on the physical machine you're installing, it's basically it is, or you can also say that it is a hypervisor. Anything, both the names are same, bare metal OS or a hypervisor. So there are 2 naming conventions to this, and so this will help us in creating the virtual machine. So now what we're going to do, we're going to have one physical machine. And on that physical machine, so what we're trying to do, so we are trying to create a virtual machines on top of that. So now here we're going to create some sort of virtual machines. Okay, a virtual machine. Okay, like this. All right. Now you're going to create a virtual machine. So this is what is the, so the thing which is happening in the current industry. So the server means it's not a physical server we're directly using. So we're always using a virtual machines. Now on this virtual machine, again, okay, we need to run an operating system. On this, okay, virtual machine, we again require an operating system. We again require a operating system. And this operating system is nothing but is Linux. So this guy is Linux OS. Yeah. So this guy is basically is a Linux OS. Right. Now on top of this, here you have Linux OS. Now anywhere, so if I when we talk about a machine today, okay, when we use a word, okay, I want to set a context. When we use a word machine, okay, or a box, well, we say a box, okay, when we say a server, okay, and maybe a virtual machine like VM, okay. So these are all point to one thing. So we actually deal with this layer. We are not going to deal with this layer anymore. By the way, we are always dealing with this layer. Okay, now so we want a server that is running the, I mean, it's a Linux OS, right? Now it is, so Linux OS, why I'm talking about there is Windows also. Okay, why can't, it can be Windows as well. Okay, it can be Windows as well. Any OS is fine. So these are the two major operating system which is running today's world. And out of that 99.9%, it is going to be Linux OS in the server world. It's not me I'm talking about. Let's read from the things from the Wikipedia. So usage of operating system from Wikipedia. So let's read from the Wikipedia. Let's understand from the Wikipedia. So now what is this Wikipedia is telling is, today, okay, so what this Wikipedia is telling is, so this is a very old report, by the way. So here it is telling the device, so it is telling the, the devices which we have on the worldwide is Android devices are more. No doubt in that. Everyone is holding a mobile today. And when we talk about what are the more devices, definitely like Android, no doubt in that, right? So that's what they're telling. And maybe in these mobile devices, maybe these guys are particularly talking about mobile particular related one, if I'm not wrong. I think yes. So they're talking about mobile devices again. So here it is actually, and I mean, basically I'm talking about, so here it is mobile related maybe, okay. And so it is going to be Android. So it's a very old report they're telling, 2015 report. All right. Now coming down, by the way, let's look into the other places, by the way. The web clients, that means like web clients where you are having Chrome, Firefox, like these are all clients. Where is these clients are more installed on? It is installed on more on Android. And after that only it is installed on, Windows. Okay. So that is what it is telling. So more it is Android, and more it is there in more it is there on Android. So you're getting Android is higher. And this is somewhere 2018 report. Okay, which is fine. It is agreed. Like web clients where is widely used, no doubt in that mobile devices again. The same way, let's come down desktop and laptop operating systems. This is also like somewhere from the 2018 report they collected somewhere. And it is telling Windows. Even it's an agreeable thing. Like most of the desktop operating systems are Windows, not the Linux. or the Mac OS. Okay, Linux is very minimal on the desktop side. Yeah, that's fine. So it's okay. Now the same way, let's come on to the server side related operating system. So when you actually have, okay, so servers, by the way, they're talking about servers and all. When we talk about the servers, so this is the diagram they're trying to tell. Now in the server family are basically server machines which was widely used. So you have a report maybe some 1994 to some 2020 somewhere. Now what it is telling is back in days until like 2003 2004, until where Linux was not successful, it was all Unix, and now it is all migrated to Linux. So now if you see the graph, by the way, it is almost 100% to Linux. Windows is there. Windows prominence is always there. Even still today it is there. But if you compare with Linux, it's an ignorable number. Maybe a 0.1%. Also, I doubt it actually. Windows using Windows usage in the server side, so is always close to 0% when we compare with the big number of Linux, by the way. Okay, but it will be there, no doubt in that. It is there, it is running. Okay, there are few people still uses Windows stack. Okay, it's going on, but the big chunk is Linux. It is Linux. Okay, and even Microsoft also lost a war with Microsoft also so lost the things with Linux, by the way. So they understood the importance of Linux. Okay, and all of a sudden they made a statement. So Microsoft love Linux. Prior to that, it was always, they were rivalries actually. Okay, so Windows never respected Linux earlier in so many statements. Okay, so the founder of Microsoft has abused Linux as well. Okay, so that's a very bad operating system. But on the server side, so this is the most used one and the most stable one. Even you can use it on the desktop side as well. Okay, but it is the most stable one, by the way. So on the server side, we require stability, and whatever the reasons it is, earlier it is Unix, now it is migrated to Linux, and now everything is Linux, by the way. Now everything is Linux. So that's what is the market report is telling us. Even I'm not talking about on my own. So there is a report, and this is the reality again. Okay, now it comes to the Linux. Okay, so Linux is provided by so many vendors. Linux is a common core. Okay, what is Linux? First of all, so this is a little bit tricky statement. Now Linux is not a OS. Let me make a statement. So Linux, a word Linux. A word Linux is okay. Linux means it is not a OS. Okay. Then what is Linux? A word Linux is not mean it is an OS. So that's where I written Linux OS. I written Linux operating system. Full word I have written. But I didn't use the word Linux because Linux is not an operating system. What is Linux here? Okay, and what is this Linux history? Okay, now back in days, we used to have Unix, by the way. So let's understand a few history, 5 minutes, let's spend it on history. Let's understand what happened and why this came into picture, or how this came into picture. Now, back in days, we used to have Unix. Okay, so Unix means, by the way, so you're going to have the software and you're going to have the hardware. Okay, so shipped by the same person. Like for an example, I'm using MacBook here. Now, MacBook is a Unix operating system. It is the only Unix which is alive right now, which is Mac OS. Okay, MacBook. Now, these guys, what is the Unix, by the way? The hardware manufacturer is the same vendor. Apple is the vendor of hardware manufacturer. And the software, which is iOS, is also managed by are created by, or it's basically like by Apple. Both the things are from Apple. This whole box is an Apple box. Okay, so hardware and software is together is a called as Unix, or shipped by the same vendor is called as Unix. Okay, this is a very important thing. What is an Unix is? Okay, so hardware and software made by same vendor is called as Unix. Right, is called as Unix. And so this Unix box is very costly. Not only my laptop, by the way, my laptop almost costed me $4,000, or maybe even more than that. I think close to $5,000 I paid to this particular box. The same $5,000 if I paid it to my, Windows, laptop, at least within less than $2,000, maybe $1,500, I'll get the same configuration. Seriously, configuration wise, I'll get the same thing. But the problem is the stability. Okay, I had to use a Windows operating system. Is not much for a professional. Okay, that's a problem. And the second problem is about the stability. By the way, it hangs a lot, but this guy runs a lot. Okay, without very smoother it runs. By the way, so that's where we like Unix. But the problem is costly. Okay, and this is the problem we are having on the server side also. Okay, now to address this, okay, so the people actually, okay, so trying to come out of the Unix world. Okay, and there is one person actually came into the picture, which is Richard Stallman. Okay, so his name is Richard Stallman. He's an American developer. So Richard Stallman. So this guy, by the way, so he's already some sort of a so programmer by the time in 1980s, not 80s, sorry, 1970s. And he actually didn't like the idea of Unix way, by the way, because Unix is becoming so costly and it cannot be afforded by everyone. And that's where what this guy has done is this guy has started a movement, okay, which is called as a GNU. Okay, so he started a movement, and this is called as GNU. Okay, so GNU stands for GNU not Unix. Okay, so GNU not Unix. What is GNU? GNU is an animal. Okay, so which represents the community. So GNU animal. The reason he picked for this particular one is it represents a community. Okay, they always go together. Okay, they live together. That is the idea. Okay, that is where he just named that particular animal and not Unix. He started a so movement, by the way, a free software movement. So which is GNU. All right, and many people were supporting this particular guy. Okay, now so there is another guy so who actually so trying to work on something, so which is another guy called as Linus Torvalds. So he's also a student in the university. So he is actually trying to make some piece of software which breaks the layer of this one. So what they thought is, they need some breaking here. So the software should be manufactured by someone, and so the hardware can be manufactured by someone. Both should work together. Now they want to build an interface on that, and that is where Linus Torvalds succeeded on that. And so he created a piece which is called as a Linux, and he joined the he joined this particular movement, and he named his software as Linux. Okay, the Linux is a software. Okay, so now try to understand. Linux is a piece of software that breaks the software and hardware, makes flexible to run, run any software on any hardware. So this is the idea, and this is Linux. Linux is not a OS. Okay, and this is the achievement they have done, and is also called as kernel. It is also called as kernel. Okay. Now kernel is the one, so which is still provided by, okay, GNU community and Linus Torvalds together. Linus Torvalds is still the owner, by the way, of Linux. So there is a website.kernel.org, and this piece of software, so still maintained and given by Linus Torvalds. He owns this. So still he's the guy who own it. And there's a lot of contributors to this again. Okay. So Linux is a project. It's an open source. They made it open source. So that means all the code is open. All the code is open. And so they are actually made this together as an open source. That's also a very important thing. So these guys actually made it, all these things as open source. That means anyone can come here and download that particular code. Open source means it is not free. Anyone can download the code. Anyone can come in and download that particular code. So they made it open source. Now I go to the kernel.org. I can just click on whatever the version I want. If I just click on this button, it just downloads, by the way. I'm done. So I can just use it. Okay. Now Linux is the biggest project of IT industry so far. It has been, been like, okay. So it has been seen so far. Okay, is the Linux. I think at least more than 15,000 developers contributed to the Linux, and every day, so thousands of lines gets added. Okay, thousands of lines get modified, few lines get deleted. Okay, so we're talking about thousands, by the way. Okay, it's a very big software, and there are a lot of contributors to this Linux. Okay, so who are the contributors again? So there are companies who comes as a contributors and does that. So whoever is a manufacturer of the hardware has to work with Linux because it has to interact, right? So whoever is a hardware manufacturer is a contributor to the Linux. Whoever is a software manufacturer, they're a contributor to Linux. Because their software, they want to make it work, right? Now, there are few people who there are so many people, okay? Now, if you look in Linux distributions, distros, Linux distributions, again from the Wikipedia, if I go for, I think Linux distros list. Again, if I go for the list of Linux distributions, okay, so now you see this chart actually, so it is going to be crazy. So there are so many softwares. Okay, there are so many Linux, by the way. So you see this, there are so many Linux. Okay, so many Linux are there. Okay, so at least 100 different softwares, okay, 100 different Linux, okay, Linux OS is there. 100 different Linux operating systems are there. Easily you'll see. Okay, so but we'll talk about the famous guys majorly. If you see this here, you have one guy Slackware, and you have another guy Debian, and you have another guy Red Hat. So these are the three guys who are having, and rest everything is small guys, so one line only or saying. So that means you have majority vendors, by the way, is Slackware, Debian, and Red Hat. So these are the three major guys actually who provide the three major Linux: Slackware Linux, Debian Linux, and Red Hat Linux. Okay. Now, out of all these three, so on the enterprise one, so everyone takes this particular one, and so they come here and take this open source. Okay, and they give their own product, which is Red Hat. Okay, so they build their software on top of this Linux, and they're going to call that as Red Hat OS. So they build something called as, okay, they build their own operating system, that is Red Hat OS. And the same way, so we're going to have Debian OS. Okay, Debian OS. And the same way, we are having another one, so which is Slackware. Now, out of all these things, okay, so the winner comes over here is this guy. Okay, so the winning guy on this particular area is, so clearly the Red Hat OS. On the enterprise world, we're talking about the servers, talking about the enterprise stable operating system. The Red Hat is the, okay, so widely used vendor on this part. So that is where, so we end up taking the we end up learning the Red Hat Linux. So we're going to learn the Red Hat Linux, and Red Hat Linux again is not a freeware, is not free. Okay. Now Red Hat is open source again. Red Hat is open source, but it is not free. So that's where we're going to use something called as CentOS. Okay. So Red Hat is open source. Okay. Red Hat is open source. Now there is a community which comes into picture and takes the Red Hat source and customize a little bit and give the same Red Hat OS as CentOS OS. And again, Red Hat is the financial contributor again to the CentOS. Red Hat is the guy who again maintains CentOS. Now we get a question, Red Hat, they're copying and giving us a CentOS, there's a loss for it. It's absolutely not. I think yesterday also someone asked. So it is absolutely not. It's again improves the business of Red Hat. So CentOS, it is given widely to the wider audience as a free thing. And if there is any issues, they can, that get reported on the CentOS will be understood by Red Hat and they serve the customers in a better way. So it's a win-win for them. Okay. And they use this customer base in fixing their particular issue. So that's where a lot of people actually give the softwares for free of cost. Okay. And so they marked this as a freeware. So CentOS is a freeware. So we'll learn this particular one. So there are a lot of people actually who comes and takes the Red Hat. So CentOS is one of that. And we'll learn CentOS in particular trainings. So finally, so we are going to take some servers. We are going to, we're going to have some operating system on top of that. So the end of the day, what operating system we're going to see here is a CentOS operating system. Okay. So now, since you are new to the Linux is just a OS. Don't imagine too much big about it. Okay. Don't and ever imagine too much big about Linux. It's big, no doubt in that. Windows is also big. Is every one of you sitting over here does know about each and every option of Windows? No, right? Definitely no. Okay. So it is going to be few options which you know to manage the Windows. You're managing your Windows. You're working on your Windows. If you don't know something, you'll start reading about it from the internet or something, and you start using that particular option also in Windows, by the way. Linux also is the same thing. You have the bare minimum things of how do you manage your operating system? Maybe how do you work as a user? How do you create some files, deal with your files, maybe something like that. Structure your files, by the way, as a user. Or else if you have internet, how do you download the things? How do you browse the things? Those things. And maybe, you want to use that particular machine by installing some software and run some software. You install the software and run the software. These are the things that you do in the Linux also. Don't imagine big, by the way. So, and it is never big, by the way. So it is only an operating system you need to learn what is needed for that particular operating system to manage. And that is where, since most of you might be a bit new to the this Linux related part. So what we'll do is the first week of our training, we'll teach you Linux. Okay. So since Linux is a new thing for most of us, so it's a new operating system coming up. We'll spend a week around and we'll learn the Linux in the very first week. Okay. Now, what is the Linux OS we are going to learn, which is CentOS? CentOS is nothing but Red Hat. Okay. Red Hat is nothing but a GNU Linux. Okay. So let me just show you, just connecting to the one of the quick Red Hat machine or CentOS machine, by the way. So cat/pc star release. So it tells that, it is Red Hat, by the way. So Red Hat 7, something like that. So Red Hat 7 and is again copied as CentOS 7. Okay. So Red Hat 7 copied as CentOS 7. But if you look into this particular, if I ask what version of Linux I'm running, it is telling that this version of Linux I'm running 3.10 in the previous tag in the previous website. I shown so these are the versions which are having 3 is a very old version. You have 4, 5, 6 also is there. This 3 is a very old version. That's okay. This is a very old way. Machine, by the way, which is fine. And it is telling what Linux it is. It is GNU Linux. Okay. So Red Hat is a GNU Linux. Now, who is the GNU Linux? So Richard Stallman started a community called as GNU. Linus Torvalds create a code called as Linux, and they clubbed together, so their community, and he joined that community, and that Linux became a GNU Linux. All right. So there are other Linux as well, okay, but it is not that much prominent in the market. I think I never seen it at least. So this is the only Linux. When we say Linux, this is the majority guy. Okay. So now just give me a few more minutes, couple of minutes before taking any questions on this. So now here, when we actually go with learning the CentOS, something, if I just go to the CentOS wiki page, or basically CentOS thing, if I go to the CentOS, now what you're going to find over here is, you'll find out a couple of versions of CentOS. So now you can see this, you're having CentOS 8 and CentOS 7. Two versions are there. And in fact, actually, so there is 9 also yet to come. 9 is released, but yet to come. That's okay. Now, what happened is, now Red Hat is actually trying to, not Red Hat is trying to, Red Hat is actually, so a financial contributor to CentOS community, the people, whoever is working in this community full time. So it's a so the CentOS is the funder for that, guys. And the Red Hat has been acquired by IBM. Red Hat has been acquired by IBM, and so they started, so involving in the business of CentOS. By the way, IBM as an enterprise organization, so they are not liking too much giving free. By the way, so they are trying to manipulate this little bit, and these people did, so doesn't really, liking that particular thing, but they cannot actually, own that particular community, because Red Hat has been funding it for some time, and there seems to be some sort of legal issue. So that's where the CentOS community has went ahead and so started their own Linux, which is called as Rocky Linux. Okay, so they started a new Linux again, and it is from the community. What they're telling is, they clearly write a disclaimer: Linux is the registered trademark of Linus Torvalds in the US and other countries. Okay, Red Hat, RHL, and CentOS are the trademarks registered to the Red Hat and its subsidiaries in the US. Now, we are not affiliated with, or endorsed or sponsored by Red Hat. Okay, so they're clearly writing it, and they are coming and so giving their own Linux, which is called as Rocky Linux. Now, it doesn't really matter at all. Okay, any Linux is okay. Everything is a copy of Red Hat only, end of the day. So they copy the source code and they modify that. Okay, and even there are people, even enterprise companies, they copy this Red Hat Linux and they sell it again. Resell also is there. So especially the Oracle will do that. So you see this, they take the copy of Red Hat. Now you see this, Oracle is actually going to copy this and they sell it as Oracle Linux. They can't do anything about it. They can't do anything about it. Okay, so it's a clear terminology. It's a clear, so license agreement, which is created by Red Hat as a part of its product creation. It's an open source. Anyone can copy it. Okay, so since it is CentOS is funded by, CentOS is funded by Red Hat, they don't want to be in that area. They came out it and just, so it is. Now that is how, so the Red Hat, Red Hat or CentOS or Rocky Linux, anything is fine. Now there are majorly so the CentOS, you're not seeing the latest version, but actually the Red Hat wise, if you look in, so the 9 is also there for the latest version. CentOS, we may not be seeing, we are not seeing it. So there is something called as CentOS Stream. They renamed that as so this IBM guys has renamed as CentOS Stream. If I go with the download, they might be having another page, by the way. So CentOS Stream. Now, if you go with this CentOS Stream is being, now CentOS being renamed as a CentOS Stream. Now, if you see this, the major two versions you are seeing is 9 and 8, by the way. The old version is previously we have seen. So that is CentOS 8 and 9. Now this is 9. 7 is actually getting, 7 is getting the end of life very soon. When it is getting end of life is the next year, June, this OS will get end of life. this is no more Git support, by the way. So that is where people will migrate to the next versions. Now 8 is currently widely used version. So that's where now, though you have multiple versions of CentOS, so we will be going and learning a new version of, the latest version. So which is again in the CentOS. So CentOS, we are going to go with the CentOS version 8, by the way. So we'll learn which version. We'll learn the version 8 version. So CentOS 8 is the one which we are going to learn. Call it up. Okay, so the version which we are going to learn here is CentOS 8. 9 is also their latest version that just came like last year only, 2022 release only. It started. It takes some time to stabilize, but right now the market is widely used between CentOS 8 and we are going to use this. Okay, so now this is what is we end up learning CentOS 8 version, CentOS version 8 in particular. Most of the time, relatively same. So 99%, OS to OS, it is same only. The foundations is always same. So going further, by the way, latest versions, you will get some enhancements. Okay, some new features and all. That's it, right? So this is how the history. So about Linux. So now why we are ending up Linux. Let me recall what I have discussed in today's session. Maybe you has joined a little bit late. So now our roles and responsibilities we talked in yesterday's demo session. So talking about we need to ensure we take the code from the developer and release to the end user in a smoother manner. So that means like, so we're going to set up a, so we're going to have a web application. The business we talked about is a web. Now to release to the end user means the feature is kept in the server. So that's where the server comes into picture. And why I got it. So this is the server. I made it. Yeah. So that means it leads to a server. All right. So that is a one. And after deploying to the application also, we need to ensure that application is always having 100% availability. And that is where, so we are actually going to, okay, go with, we're going to go with, understanding a server. What is a server? Where is this server coming from? It sits inside the data center, okay, of a company. It sits inside the data center of a company. So this data center looks like this. And it's in this data center, you're seeing racks, by the way, and the servers are installed in this rack, and each rack may be having some 20, 24 servers you can install. Okay, like that, it will come. So you install the server, and the servers are called as rack servers. And these rack servers are very big servers. Okay, we don't actually directly use the rack servers. So now what we do is we install some bare metal OS on top of this particular rack servers, and on top of that, what we're going to do is we're going to create a we're going to install some bare metal software, and that bare metal software or the OS is going to help us in creating the virtual machines, and we create the virtual machines, and so we use those particular virtual machines, and inside that particular virtual machine, again an operating system is needed, and that is Linux operating system, and there are different vendors of Linux is there. So which is Red Hat OS, and so the Red Hat OS. Red Hat OS is the widely used one. So that's where we are going to learn about Red Hat. And Red Hat is not free. That's where, so the CentOS is a guy who copies that and, redistributes that as a freeware. So we're going to use that particular CentOS, and in particular, CentOS 8 version. So this is the history that we are having. All right. So I see some couple of questions on the chat. So after that, I'll take the questions. I see some questions. So first question I see is, does each rack server will have a separate OS, or all rack servers will have only one OS installed? All the rack servers, each rack server, you're going to install a different, an operating system, and it can be same on all the rack servers generally, right? So we maintain uniformity. So that means, like, let's say if I have 10 machines, I'll install all the 10 machines with one operating system. Let's say I'm having a company. So in the company, like I have 10 employees, and all the 10 employees, I'll maintain one version so that it is managed. It is easy for me for managing, right? So like the same way, the rack servers also, even though how many servers you are having, will maintain uniform version installed. And do I need to install the Linux to be installed? I'll talk about that. So we're not there yet. And I'm actually used to use Windows, Ubuntu OS, and how is it different from Red Hat? So Ubuntu is not much used in the server world, by the way, enterprise world, especially enterprise. I'm using the word enterprise. I'll not comment that, so Ubuntu is not at all used. Ubuntu is also used, but when we look into the server world, especially the enterprise companies, okay, so then Red Hat is the widely used one. Okay, no doubt in that. So, and so we learn about Red Hat only. So though you are comfortable with Ubuntu, so here is again another Linux, right? So it's almost similar. Okay, now let's say Android mobiles you're having. Every Android mobile is also a Linux box. Every Android mobile is Linux. Again, here the same Linux actually has been copied, and that, I mean, you have Android also available. That's it. You have Android. Now there are so many Android vendors. You have Samsung, OnePlus, so many MI. So so many vendors are there. So now if you have one mobile, so if you go with another mobile, maybe some differences you see, right? So such differences only will come. You can manage. That's fine. You can learn Red Hat much easier, which is fine, not an issue. What is the difference between CentOS and Ubuntu? As I already told, those are two different vendors. Okay, as simple as that, Linux vendors. And all VMs comes with OS. I will talk about that. We're not there yet. And the difference between a cloud and a server, we're not there yet. We'll talk about it. I'm not able to see the chat messages. That is fine. You just post the message. If you have a question, I will answer that. That is okay. And please explain the difference between kernel and version. I don't think so. What does that mean? Can you just give a bit more detail? Like, what is the thing? And all rack server have, I think, already asked the same question again. So what is the major difference between Linux and Windows OS? Okay, it's a vendors, right? So it's all different, as simple as that. So, and why servers are using 99% Linux? Because it is stable. Windows is a stupid operating system. I'm telling you, I'm using a word stupid. I'm telling, okay, intentionally I'm using it. So if you're any fans of Windows, please don't hurt. Okay, I'm telling you, once you get a Linux, by the way, I'm telling you, you start using the Linux today, maybe 2023 January, you're learning Linux. By 2024 January, okay, you will realize that you are working on the most difficult operating system that you ever know, that is a Windows. Windows is never for a professional. It is only for a layman, okay, a basic user. It is never for a professional. So that's what you have to always think in. So that's where it is. So Linux brings you a lot. It will empower you. You don't believe that, your day-to-day work, what you're doing also, if you start using Linux, you can make wonders. You can increase your productivity 10 times at least if you use Linux. Okay. So Windows makes you lazy. That's okay. Sorry if I use a wrong word. Don't worry. I'm at least not a great guy for Windows. But at least I started with Windows only, no doubt in that. But at least now I see the power of Windows, right? So that's where it's not a great one. Really sorry for using that word. So sorry, you're saying to download the Linux for free. No download, nothing. We're going to learn what version, how to download this version and everything. I didn't talk about it yet. So now the context is only about CentOS 8. We're going to use CentOS 8. If you have any questions around that, please let me know. Maybe let me just take the questions from the chat. From the voice. If you have any question, you can raise the hand. So please, just while you ask the question, please ask a relative question. If you have unrelated question about the training or something like that, so someone is already picking a question like duration of the training and things like that. So those particular things I'll not answer at this point of time. Maybe after half an hour, by end of the session, I will answer them. So now, if you have any questions which is related to the things that I talked about the Linux, please raise your question, by the way. Yes, Rajesh, go ahead. Rajesh, you raised your hand. So, okay, next one. Shankar, go ahead.
Hello, hi Raghu. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just want to understand the diagram you are referring. If you minimize, so when you name bare metal hypervisor, so it's directly installed on the hardware, right? From the reference you gave in the diagram, it's like you installing operating system on the top of operating system. You installing bare metal hypervisor. So
Both are same actually.
yeah. So okay.
Yeah, thanks for correcting. Both are same.
Okay. Yeah. That's it. That's the only thing which I have question. Thanks.
Yes, Koti.
Yeah, hi. Good morning.
Yeah.
So what is exactly bare metal? Is it like a hypervisor is different, right? Hypervisor comes in Windows Server operating system, right?
Not really. You're just convinced that way. So these are the actual words, by the way. So the bare metal OS is nothing but a hypervisor, or bare metal OS comprises of hypervisor in general.
Hypervisor, bare metal are same?
See, bare metal means it's referring a physical box, by the way. Okay. And what operating system we install on the bare metal is a hypervisor's operating. I mean, the operating systems comes with a hypervisor.
Hypervisor, yes.
Now you take VMware ESX, by the way. Okay. Now what VMware has done, they took the Linux, okay, and they developed their own operating system on that. So once you take a physical machine and you install the VMware software, automatically you'll get a provision to create the virtual machines out of box.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's it. Nothing more than that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ravi.
Yeah, hi Raghu, good morning. So, I've got one question. So, we talked about Unix, right? Linux is something which breaks the hardware and software, right? So, can't we call Windows also as a Linux? Because in Windows also we'll have different software and different hardware, right? Like Dell and Windows. So
We're talking about we want to learn Linux. We're talking about the history of Linux. We're not talking about the history of Windows, isn't it? So that's where, yeah.
So how different it is? I mean, I just got confused. How differently it is breaking the hardware and software?
It is same only. So Linux alternative is Windows.
Okay. So, but Linux is more stable one, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Koti, go ahead. So whoever has done with your question, please, you have to lower your hands. Yeah, thanks. Koti, you're asking, you have any question? No, please raise your hand once again. 1 second. One minute. You raised it already. All right. What option I clicked on you? I don't know. Sorry, man. So come again. So Chakradhar, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, most of the people you are using a Mac laptop. I'm using a Windows laptop. Little bit tricky with installation of softwares.
Windows is fine. It's just a desktop here we are using.
Yeah, okay. I'm using a Windows laptop only. Some videos we'll see on YouTube. Little bit difference between the installation of softwares, like difference Mac and Windows.
I think no worry at this point of time for you. So no issue.
Is it fine for Windows laptop?
It is fine. No issue.
Yeah, okay.
Most of the support supports Windows only, not Mac, right? So you have more softwares for Windows. Windows is widely used, no doubt in that.
Yeah, and that's fine.
No? Yes, good.
Yeah, clear. That's
Hi, Raghu. So my doubt is after we'll deploy application into the rack servers, right? So we'll deploy application into all rack servers or in any particular rack server?
Ultimately, you have to install on all the machines, right?
Yeah,
You have
okay.
10 laptops. You have 10
Okay.
laptops. If you want to use the laptop, by the way, you have to install an OS on all the laptops.
Okay. Yeah, okay. We'll assess that application whenever we want, right?
Doesn't really matter, I think, right? So for you, it's okay. That's fine.
Yeah,
So
okay.
something is installed. It's just an OS.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's my doubt.
Hi.
Yes, Satya, go ahead.
Actually, you told like Red Hat OS is like majorly used, right?
Mhm.
So, what's the main difference between Red Hat and the others? I mean, why it is mostly used?
So why it is mostly used is, see, one reason happened very long back in the very starting, by the way. So at the era of, so at the era of, so Red Hat or Ubuntu going well, by the way. So this Richard Stallman made a statement against Richard Stallman made a statement against Ubuntu. Okay, so Ubuntu spyware something. So he made a statement, by the way. So the Ubuntu is actually tracking the user. I mean, so he called it out, very long back. Okay, so that's where so people so were not okay to go with the Red Hat. Were not going to the Ubuntu on the server side, especially. So, but maybe it's true or not true. I am also not sure. But he made a statement saying that Ubuntu is having some sort of collecting some sort of data. So that's when like enterprise liked more of Red Hat. That is one reason I know. And apart from that, maybe it is just a usage stability, by the way. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mahendra.
Raghu, like I'm not using personal laptop. I'm using office laptop. The CentOS and all can be in like installed in Amazon.
No worry at this point of time. We're not there yet. So
oh no, okay.
I'll tell
Just
you.
for a clarification.
No issues.
Okay, and that bare metal OS is there, right? For that also some OS configured will be in that, like configured.
OS only. It's OS only.
Okay, okay. Now, like there also there will be options, right? Like AMD processor, Intel, like that. Hardware part and all, like it will be configured differently. We can choose whatever we want, like the company side.
What is this AMD? Why you are saying AMD?
No. The bare metal also there will be options. You showed the options, right? Like AMD, Intel, and all.
I did not show anything, right? So the hardware can be anything, by the way. When you purchase a hardware, we're trying to purchase a CPU, by the way, for an example. Okay, I want to assemble my my desktop. You go and purchase one motherboard. You want to purchase one CPU. While purchasing the CPU, you have options. You have Intel guy. You have AMD guy. So those are just processors, right? It does not matter.
Okay. Thank you.
So someone joined in the name of admin. Like, I'm not sure what is your name. You got unmute option right now. And I'm not able to hear you as well. So go ahead, Rajesh. Rajesh, I'm not able to hear you, Rajesh.
I mean, actually, lower hand. Actually, I didn't ask anything. Raghu, hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Rajesh. I'm not. Go ahead. What is your question?
Actually, I'm in lower hand, Raghu.
You have to click on the lower hand again. So then only it will go. You raise the hand, you again click on that, then it will go. It's still showing me. It went and came out. Again, you're clicking multiple times. Just click on lower hand.
Actually, I don't have any questions.
That's
Raghu, thanks. Yeah.
I think John, you left. Okay, John, go ahead, John. John, you have to unmute and talk. Yes, Harita.
Hey, good morning. So I just have a small question. So initially you mentioned like day-to-day activities of DevOps engineer or something like that. Can you please go there once? Roles. So these are the two roles, like take the code from the developer and make sure that it is available 100%. I mean, 100% availability should be there. That's the only one, right? And these are all continuation of that, or else this is in a different topic, or else this includes in the roles of a DevOps engineer.
From the role only we started our journey, right? So a discussion started from role.
Okay, okay. So these are the only 2 points, and there is no continuation for this one, roles of DevOps engineer.
I did not got the context of your question actually.
No, so the roles is only one thing, that is take the code and then make sure that it is available, and that is the role of a DevOps engineer, correct?
10,000 feet. These are the roles. Yes.
Okay, okay. So I thought there's an extension of this topic, and then we went from discussing Linux. Okay, that is my question. Thank you.
Yes, Sai Ram. Not able to hear you, Sai. Yes, Malesh.
Hi, Raghu. Yeah, I'm just having a small question. Can you drop down a little bit? Okay, here we talked about 2 different operating systems, right? One is hypervisor OS and another one is Linux OS. So the bare metal OS usage is simply limiting to a creation of virtual machines, isn't it? So after that, we won't be using it, right?
Yes.
So once virtual machines are created, the Linux OS will get installed in those virtual machines, which we will continue to use, right? No,
Yes.
no. Am I understanding correct?
It's correct only. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Shrikant.
Yes, Raghu, I have a question. Like, what is the difference between bare metal OS and hypervisor? Is it the same?
See, it's an operating system. That's it. We're just categorizing end of the day. So operating system means runs on some hardware. Now, let's say if it is an Android which you are installing, its purpose is on the mobile phone, and if you'll have phone features, dealing with so satellite signal, right? So such features will be there. Now, so same features is not needed on the laptop, right? You don't connect to the so mobile network and things like that. So that means it is not needed. So that means certain features will not be there. So bare metal OS means the OS which comes to create a virtual machines. That's it. It's again a OS only. By default, it is designed to come with those particular things. That's it.
Okay, Raghu. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Vinod.
Yeah, hi Raghu.
Yeah.
I have one question. Like, before we are going to install this Linux or CentOS OS, do we need to back up all the data from our old laptop?
No need, nothing. Your assumption is wrong, and don't worry about it. We're not there yet. So when we're not there yet, don't worry about the things. We'll go there. So the worry will cause you confusion only. Nothing comes out of it. So we'll talk about it. I'm not there yet. We'll talk about it. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Saiteja, go ahead.
Yeah, Raghu, by hypervision means virtualization, na?
Yes. What is the question? You're on mute, Vinod.
Hi, Raghu. This is Saiteja.
Yeah.
Here bare OS metal is there, na? Hypervision means it is virtualization, na?
It's virtualization only. What is the question?
Virtualization means dividing the hardware into small chunks.
Right only. That's what even I told, right?
Yeah. On top of every virtual machine, we are going to use this Linux operating system.
Yes.
So we have to learn about the hypervision here.
No
Or
need.
we clean ignore it.
No need.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Thanks.
Dinesh.
Yeah, we have discussed about RHEL and CentOS. RHEL is optional, or we have to learn it also.
So we're going to learn about RHL only, right?
Both are same, RHEL and CentOS.
It's a copy.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you.
Next, Vamsi Krishna. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Raghu. Good morning. Am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yes.
Actually, Raghu, I have yesterday class doubt. Can I ask it?
Maybe
Like the
end of the session then. If you have any questions
Sure.
online, ask. Otherwise, let's wait your question till end of the session.
Raghu, actually, you are using MacBook, right? But I'm using Windows, but everything will be performed on cloud, right? Whether you will be installing the same thing, Red Hat and CentOS.
Yeah. So no matter at this point of it, you can use any desktop, which is fine.
Okay, Raghu. Why? Because the cloud environment will be installing this Linux flavor like CentOS, and we will be performing all those actions in there.
We don't know cloud. I didn't talk about cloud. Okay. I didn't talk about installation. Don't worry. Don't worry now.
Yeah, Raghu. Why? Because I'm using Windows. That's what I was thinking to ask actually.
Yes, Shubham.
Thanks, Raghu.
Robbed. Yes, Swami Rajesh, sorry.
I just want to know what is meant by kernel and what the difference between kernel and operating system.
So kernel is the core of the operating system. So now what these guys are telling, Linux is nothing but a kernel, right? Okay. So now they're taking that particular kernel and they're building a software. So now you have this diagram, right? So you have Unix. Now the Unix is being replaced as Linux, which is nothing but a kernel. So that's a piece of software. So everyone takes that, and there are different software vendors now. So Red Hat is a software vendor, Debian is a software vendor. So they'll make the software.
Can you please differentiate between the kernel and the operating system? I mean, what the features difference between the kernel and operating system?
Kernel is the one which deals with, software is not the one which deals with the hardware. Okay. So in between, so the Linux comes into picture. The software will talk to the Linux, and Linux will deal with the hardware. So that's where they need.
So kernel is an interface between an operating system and hardware.
No, operating system means you're having Linux plus software vendor. So Linux, which is nothing but kernel, plus the software which is made by the Red Hat, together called as operating system. Not sure, did I answer your question? You're on mute, Swami.
I just had confusion. Even I am not getting the actual point. What's the difference between kernel and operating system?
Kernel, there are multiple pieces involved in there. Okay. Okay. Now Android, who is actually Android maker? Who owns Android? Google.
Yes.
Okay. Google gives Android.
Yes.
Now Google is making the phones, and some other guys also is making the phones. Now
Yes.
Samsung is making. Now what they will do, they will take this particular one and take this, and top of that, so they will add some Samsung related layer, and together they will release a software, which is Samsung software, right?
Okay.
Right. Now the same thing. So the kernel is there. Now the kernel and the Red Hat is making some Red Hat is making some software. Okay. Now they are taking it. Now this kernel and software, they're packing together, and that is called as an operating system. So if you pack these two things only, it will become a OS. Only software will never become a OS. Only kernel will never become a OS. If you have those two layers involved, then only it is called as software. So in Windows, if it is in a Windows, by the way, the software and the kernel made by the Windows only. Okay. So that's where that layer you never see it. But it comes to the Linux, the vendor is of who is many. What is the purpose of the kernel? So end of the day, the software has to perform something on the hardware, but that guy doesn't have the piece of code which deal with the hardware. So it has to interact with the kernel. So that means, so software, any operation want to perform on the hardware, it talks to the kernel piece, and kernel piece will go and talk to the hardware. So it will not directly talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Harish.
Hi, Raghu. Good morning.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Raghu?
Yes.
Raghu, question to you regarding the bare metal. Okay. So is it mandatory to install the hypervisor?
Installations, I'm not there yet. Okay, let's complete your question. Sorry for that. Sorry, interrupt.
Okay. Is it mandatory to install the hypervisor as shown in the the diagram?
It is. Without operating system, you cannot deal with a hardware. So you definitely.
Yeah, but we already installed the physical machine, right?
Physical machines means you just went to the store and you took one motherboard, one CPU, one RAM, one hard disk. That doesn't come with a OS, right?
Okay.
Isn't it?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So physical means the hardware. Yeah. Yes, Sriram.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So can you please tell me the difference between cloud and server? I mean, the server which is provided by, yeah, could you please tell me cloud and server difference?
Cloud we didn't talk about yet. So if you have any question in understanding the thing which I mentioned so far, please. Cloud we are not there yet.
Yeah, okay. Then Linux. Yeah, for today's, I mean, I don't have.
Yeah. Anjanelu.
Yeah. Then I audible?
You're audible, but a little bit not clear. Go ahead.
Why we use only Red Hat OS? Is there any special?
Why you use Windows only? Are you using Windows or Mac OS in yours? Or, by the way,
Windows.
why are you using Windows?
Is compatible?
It's compatible. Okay, maybe Red Hat is compatible, so that's why. So wide usage is so many reasons. So it is widely used. We are learning about it. All right, I see some questions in the chat, by the way. What is actually inside Linux? Linux is going to be a piece of software which is going to deal with the hardware. Okay, and Android is also a Linux, by the way. And hypervisor is a software that can install. I think that's fine. I think kernel and OS I already answered. So can we use Mac OS on CentOS? Nothing, no worries. Bare metal, I think most of the questions are answered. All right. So let's get on to the next thing, by the way. Now we need this CentOS to learn. Okay. We want this particular CentOS to learn. And so how to learn this particular CentOS? So I need CentOS, right? So there are multiple ways of doing that. So let me just open the deck a little bit. Let me just check whether I covered all the points. Or did I forget something? Roles I mentioned. So which is fine. Server and server is Linux. I already mentioned which Linux, Red Hat. Yeah. So RHL, the problem with RHL is it's not free, but it's an open source. But since it is an open source, it can be, so taken and modified, which is fine. And who redistributes is there are many people who redistributes Red Hat. CentOS is there, Oracle is there, Amazon Linux is there. Okay, so there are multiple vendors now. So you have 7, 8, 9 is also there. So but 8 is actively used. So we're going to learn CentOS 8 now. But now where to run this particular Linux? Now yours is a Windows machine, mine is a Mac OS. Okay, so maybe so I cannot just go ahead and reinstall my Windows with a Linux, right? It doesn't make sense. Okay, So, but I need to learn Linux. So where can I learn this particular Linux? So that's a question. And you can do it in multiple ways. So one you can do is the bare metal software we're talking about, right? Which is a hypervisor. That hypervisor software, you can install in your Windows or the Mac OS, and you can do that. What you can do, you can install that hypervisor into your laptop desktop, and you can create your virtual machines, which is fine. And there are vendors for that, So, Oracle VirtualBox is the free version, which is available, by the way. You can use this, and you can create a virtual machines in your local laptop desktop. That is one option you have. Or else, there are vendors who provide the cloud as a there are vendors who provide infra as a service. Okay, now what you want, actually, you want an operating system. You can go to some vendors and you can take it. So maybe it is called as a cloud vendors. It is being called as a cloud vendors. Now you can go to the cloud vendor. Either it can be Amazon, or it can be Google, or it can be Azure. Okay, Microsoft. You can go there and ask for a virtual machine, and you get a virtual machine. And in that virtual machine, you can ask for a CentOS 8. You get a CentOS 8, which is also fine. You can go with that. Or else, what we're trying to do, we're learning the Linux. Now let's use some learning platforms. They also provide the Linux on the browser, by the way, directly. So no need of creating the virtual machines. Don't use virtual machines in your local system. It is unnecessarily going to make your machines exhausted. Okay, so it just it just makes your capacitors exhausted in your motherboard, and eventually makes your laptop slow. Your laptop's motherboards are not designed to deal with those virtual machine capacity. So by the way, okay, so too much high CPU, if you're running with so high much data transfer, so your capacitors in your motherboards will generally get exhausted. So let's say if your hardware life is 3 years, within 1.5 years it will become very slow. Okay, you're ending its life, by the way. Don't do that. And so that's where I don't suggest it. Okay, so no need of that fancy thing. Okay, so now what you can do is we can go to the cloud. Of course, we'll go with the cloud. And every one of us, our syllabus is having the cloud. We want to go with the cloud. We'll learn the cloud. Okay, so we'll go there, no doubt in that, but not today. Okay, on the day one, I don't want to give so many options to you. All right, and what is an alternative to that? So there are some platforms which is there, which is called as Killer Coda. Okay, so Killer Coda is a learning platform. If you want to learn something, okay, there are some learning courses available out there, and while learning them, so they're going to be some sort of they're going to be providing some sort of machines for us to practice. Okay, so now how do I do that is, so just go with the so you can go with any playground, and you can you want Ubuntu, or you want CKS, or else you come bit down, so you'll find out so the CentOS may not be given. That's fine, but that's okay. Something is given, like Ubuntu. If I click on Ubuntu, then what I will get it is I will directly get it something on the here on the browser. Now Linux is a command line operating system majorly. Though it has a graphical interface, we never use graphics. Okay, at least on the server side, we don't use graphical UI to deal with it. Windows, maybe you're using mouse and all and dealing with that. But in Linux, it's going to be commands. Everything you wanted to do, you have to so everything you need to do, you have to type commands. You have to learn some commands, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn some commands. Now, what I have done is I have made one course over here. Okay, so to learn the Linux related things, the first week. So we have administrative topics, we have Linux basic topics. If I click on Linux basics, now what happens here is it is going to go ahead and so bring us a CentOS environment, which is a CentOS 8 environment. Okay, so we're going to use that particular one. Okay, so that's it. So that is how okay, for a couple of days, 1 or 2 days, we are going to use this particular platform. Okay, and we'll learn some Linux. We want to learn some Linux. Okay, whether I install, so this is my cloud machine, and whether I use a cloud machine, it is same command line. Whether if I go here, by the way, it is also going to be the same thing. You just get the command line, by the way. Okay, you will be using that particular command. So let's just 1 second. Yeah, so you got the CentOS box with us. So we can start using it. All right. So we know to really go with the, creating a virtual machines. End of the day, you want to use CentOS. Whether you install it, you directly get it, doesn't really matter. So we want to use that. So that's where we'll go and use these particular platforms and we get it. Okay. Now, okay. So we're going to go with this, but eventually every one of us need an Amazon account. You need a Amazon account. So let's go with the, so signing up the Amazon account. So now in this particular URL, so whichever you are using to join the session, by the way, at the down, the links is already given. So this is a video recordings links where the recordings will upload. So yesterday video is already there in here. And today video also will get uploaded. It's a playlist. Okay. The second one is Miro dashboard. So today, whatever the diagram I written, by the way, you will see it over here. Okay. So you can simply see that, which is fine. The Miro link is also given. The diagrams, what is written, you can watch them. And you need to do an account sign up. You need to do a account sign up. So whether you can, so there is a video to just to help you with account sign up. And there's a sign up button to click on sign up, by the way. So you can use that. And finally, there is a killer coda. So if you just click on that, it will take you to that, my courses, by the way. Okay. So that particular link is there. All right. Now these links are there in the, if you are using this template of the, UI to join the session, you have it. Or else if you are using the sites link, sites.google.com, there also we have the same links, by the way. So you have, Miro, the current batch recording links. If you just open that, it will show you the same thing. And if you just click on, if you click on Miro dashboard, so click on that, you will see the same Miro, all the diagrams, by the way. Okay, you have that. And if you are just go to the, so sign up video, you will see that. And killer coda is there. So just click on that. You will see a killer coda. Okay, so from tomorrow, we're going to start using this particular killer coda. Just for today's context, by the way, we know where to use Linux. We'll learn the Linux, by the way. So however it is, doesn't really matter. Later, we go with the cloud. And every one of you need to sign up an Amazon account. If you already have an Amazon account, which is fine, no issues. But if you don't have Amazon account, okay, so then go ahead and sign up for the Amazon account and we'll use this Amazon account. So after 2-3 days of learning some Linux basics from the command line from the killer coda, we'll get onto Amazon and we'll jump there. That's fine. Okay, so that would be all from my side for today. And if you have any questions, please, please raise your hand or else you can keep it on the chat. Yes. Yes, Kavya. Okay.
Hi, Raghu.
Yeah.
My query is like we are using now CentOS. Now, is there any difference of using different Linux?
Some differences will be there, but the context is same, right? In Windows, you open a URL by opening a browser. So there also you'll do the same thing. You'll open the same URL as an example. In a way of Linux.
Slight differences are there, but we can able to catch up, right?
Yeah, as long as you know the context of what you're doing, the things are same only.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Vidya.
Hi, Raghu. Good morning. So, Raghu, today's kind of assignment work for us is to create this AWS account and create EC2 instance in that, or you're gonna do it in front of us tomorrow, or how is it?
EC2, you don't need to create it. So just sign up for Amazon. That is fine.
Okay, sign up for Amazon. Okay, and practicing Linux, that we can do it, right? I mean, you're also going to continue tomorrow with some basics of Linux commands,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, Sri Ram.
Yeah, Raghu, I have a mission. My personal laptop consists of Linux OS. Can I continue with that, or else?
No, that is fine.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Stop. Anything is okay.
But it is a i3.
Doesn't really matter.
Okay. Thank you, Raghu.
Yeah, everything runs on browsers only for us, so no issue.
Okay.
Yes, Wasif.
Hi, Raghu. Very good morning. Just I want to understand about the Linux. How much Linux we need to understand just on the beginners level, or just for what actually how much we use in the real time. So will it be covered in our training, or else we need extra practice or some other knowledge on that?
So let me keep some cross question to you. How much Windows you know?
I'm not sure. I didn't, I know what is required. Just that is what I use.
That means you cannot claim that you know Windows.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
You can't claim you know Windows, man. You're doing it.
Yeah, I know Windows, but I don't know completely that I can.
No, completely is fine, but that means complete is needed for you. Is a question.
Not required. Yeah.
So then that means like now you call yourself as intermediate or beginner or advanced. What are you? Where are you? You're in advanced only. You're doing whatever is needed, right?
Yes.
So any operating system is same only. Now you go to the Android mobile. How much you know on Android? Maybe if you're Android at least, right? So you know what is needed. Any operating system, it is same only. Okay, you know what you want to know, and if you are able to complete your work, which is fine. So that's where I would say, like, so what all is needed to deal with an Linux operating system for our job, day-to-day activity, we'll learn that much.
Okay. So just I was curious because I can see very basic and commands. So I thought maybe they're, in the real time, maybe the real Linux admin or some other, Devops may use other stuff for other commands, like something like that.
There is, you go to your organization, there is no, Red Hat is not giving Red Hat -real-time operating system. What you're learning here, it is also same there. It's no better.
So it's the same. Okay.
Yes, Vamsi Krishna.
Yeah, Raghu, just now I mentioned this regarding with yesterday's intros class doubt. Can I ask you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned about that greenfield approach. I just wanted to know about that greenfield.
Greenfield means, greenfield means, like, let's say if I want to demonstrate something, by the way. So the greenfield is basically is an empty land. On empty land, you construct everything. That's a greenfield. That's an engineering terminology. So greenfield means you're building something on an empty land, or you can build something on an existing building.
From basic level, actually.
Yeah.
Raghu, one more thing, like you said that you will be dealing with one entire big project related to open source IBM. Yeah, and the project, see, the tools which you are explaining will be dealt according to the project usage, or how the things flow, Raghu, actually.
Yeah, it will be as much as per the project needs. And the project is a big project. So that's where, even though you learn an individual tool, you will never get those requirements, by the way. So you'll never get those use cases. You'll get more use cases, by the way. So every tool is always a very small tool. Like you take shell scripting, I can teach you shell scripting in 15 minutes. You take Jenkins, I can teach you Jenkins in 15 minutes. But whenever the use cases comes into picture, as an example I'm talking about, right? So that is where the majority, how to do the things will come into picture.
Okay, that's what's interrelated to the project usage, right? The tools interrelated to the project.
So tool is, I want to make you understand, tool is always a small thing.
Okay.
As long as the requirement is bigger, the usage becomes bigger. Okay.
Yeah.
That's where you see more usage is what I'm trying to tell.
Okay, like for example, for version control, like you mentioned, like a Git, the starting phase, the Git, Jenkins, like everything will be needed as per this.
Again, I'm telling you. So basically, like, let's say if you learn a tool, by the way. Okay. Now tool, I'll talk about how to install Jenkins. As a Jenkins topic, I'm talking about how to install Jenkins, how to create a job. Okay. So this much I'll talk about, so my Jenkins teaching is done. But when you have a project, by the way, so when you create the job, so now my project is telling me create 100 jobs. Now the use case changed. Okay. So as if you're learning the tool, they teach you how you create a job. But now the job actually telling you, the requirement is telling you how do you create 100 jobs. Now you're a question mark. You learned the things, you learned a tool, but you cannot fill the gap with the use case. So that's where the project always gives you. And of course, if I'm talking about 100 jobs, eventually I have to teach you how to create a job also.
Yeah.
But in a much better way. Okay. So that's how the context I'm trying to give is we'll do more than just learning the tool. Yeah.
Sure. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, Hartej.
Hi, Raghu. This is Pratibha. Already I installed Linux in VMware virtual machine. Whether I have to install or only it's enough virtual machine enough.
No, we don't use any desktop. You just use the killer coder, like what I told you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Ashok.
Yeah, hi, Raghu. Good morning. That Linux is a self-scripting also is mandated to learn.
Yes, it
before
is.
coming to AWS. Okay. And
Not
as
before
you
coming to training, I will teach you.
got it. And you said the killer code, right? Any subscription required?
Free.
Free only, right? Okay. And one more thing, like most of the software companies provide free trainings, right? Like Udemy and all, LinkedIn Learning. And what is the major difference to take this course again? Guys,
See, there are 10 topics, by the way. So let's say there are 10 tools in the training, and 10 tools are trained by 10 different trainers, and 10 different contexts come into picture. Plus, they never so teach you together, by the way, right? So that's where. But you get into the project, by the way, it's always keeping the things, clubbing the things together. So tool to tool, there is a relation. So that relations, you will not get it from there at least. So from here, you are going to get it.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, Durga.
Hi, Raghu. So this question was from yesterday's session. So you said correct me if I'm wrong. So you said the DevOps person is replaced by all these backup storage and DBS teams, right? So how does the cloud comes in picture? I don't have any basic idea of that. So when does the AWS comes into picture here?
So everything is getting replaced by AWS only, right? So we talked about data center, no data center is needed. AWS is giving it.
So instead of using all the physical machines, we are creating something in the cloud. That's right?
Yeah. So you need to have the bare metal dealing. Okay. You don't need to worry about VMware creation, all this, but VM creation and all these things will be done by Amazon. You just do and go and say that, hey, I want a machine. You get the machine just in a couple of clicks. That's it.
Okay. Whatever the OS we need, everything is created in the cloud instead of doing it physical.
You have to ask. Yeah. Nothing physical runs in today's world. Yeah.
Okay. And you are going to cover the DevOps and AWS session simultaneously, right?
We're going to cover DevOps and AWS simultaneously. Yes.
Okay.